We welcome you to our Provo Municipal Council meeting this Tuesday, December 16th at 5:30 p.m. We'll begin with a roll call. And we'll start with Councillor Hoban.
I'm here, Travis Hoban.
Catrice McKay.
Becky Bogdan.
Craig Christensen.
Gary Garrett.
Rachel Whipple.
George Handley.
Thank you. We welcome also Mayor Kafusi and members of the administration. We'll begin our session this evening with an opening prayer that will be led by Richard Bowler, who's one of our residents and also happens to be a member of our library school board. Richard, and he will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be offered by George Handley.
Father in heaven, as we meet here together to conduct the business of this city, we ask thy blessing upon this meeting. At this Christmas time, while we celebrate the birth of Jesus Christ, our Savior, our hearts are turned to thee and our hearts are turned to others as we consider the meaning of Christmas and the meaning of gift giving and generosity that's shown by that. We are aware that the world that we live in is in turmoil and difficulties. We ask thy blessing upon those who are affected by these things and who need help, that thou bless them and that our hearts will be turned to them. We ask thy blessing upon those who will be conducting business here, that it will be done in a manner that will benefit the city, the residents, and will be in accordance with thy will. And bless us in all that we do. And this we say in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, George. And thank you, Richard. And I may have inadvertently said that Richard is a member of our school board. I meant to say library board. Our first item on the agenda this evening is a presentation. This will be by Justin Harrison, the City Council Executive Director, and by Scott Henderson, our City CAO, who will recognize outgoing elected officials. Justin and Scott.
Eight years, Mayor Michelle Kafusi. 8 years of success and 8 years of serving your community with energy and enthusiasm and a leadership level that I'd never experienced before in my career. We have all built buildings together, and we have made decisions and handled challenges, all of them with the Provo City citizen in mind. And with this, we have our staff here, and we express the appreciation of the employees and of the municipal council and everybody here for your great 8 years of service. And thank you for everything you've done for your hometown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott, and thank you, Mayor. We do want to get a final photo with you. Let's listen to Justin first, though.
All right. Well, I am not nearly as polished as Scott. So I had to write a few things down, but tonight I just want to take a minute and thank Councilmember George Hanley as he concludes his service. Excuse me, on the Provo City Council. You're making me emotional, George. George has served much like Mayor Kafusi for the last 8 years, from 2018 to 2025, and tonight is his last city council meeting as a member of the council. We expect to see you back here as a citizen. His time on the council included service as council chair and vice chair, and during those years, he's been a steady presence on the council. Oh, thank you. He's been a steady presence on the council as Provo worked through growth, change, and some genuinely challenging policy questions. But over the course of his service, George has participated in nearly 400 city council meetings. I want you to think about that.
That's painful.
Sorry, city council and work meetings. And spent an estimated 2,500 hours in those public meetings. Just think of all of the better things you could have been doing with your time. But that was just public meetings. That doesn't include the many additional hours spent reading materials, meeting with residents, or showing up in order to show up prepared week after week to serve his community. George has always brought a thoughtful approach to his service and is willing to ask questions that help clarify issues, listen carefully to his colleagues and residents, and consistently focused on long-term impacts of the council's decisions on Provo City as a whole. George's example helped instill respect, collaboration, and civility within the council and the city, where he made space for differing viewpoints and helped ensure that even when discussions were difficult, they remained productive and focused on serving the community. George, on behalf of the council and the council staff, I just want to say thank you one last time. I feel like this is a little bit of a eulogy, and I tried to not make it that. You're still going to be around, but we're grateful for the care that you brought to this role, and it's an honor to present you with a little gift that we have for you. If you'd come down for a picture, we'd enjoy that even more. Thank you.
Let's do a photo here in front. And Steve, would you join us with Mayor Kafusi? And George, I see your wife here, if she could join us as well. And lastly, George, we would welcome a comment, a few words from you and Mayor. Go ahead, George.
All right. We have a very long agenda tonight, so I just prepared a few thoughts. I'm sorry to take some time in a very busy evening, but I wanted to thank my family first and foremost, my wife and supportive children. And I'm also glad that I'm not the only elected official who cries in public. I'll just say. I'm grateful for the amazing staff that we get to work with. Justin, Malia, Kevin, Jennifer, Rachel, and now Tanner, and Brian for being just such an outstanding legal counsel for the city council. They've all been amazing. And that doesn't include those that no longer work with the city, including Karen, I think was here earlier, and our beloved Cliff Strachan, who is in his last fight with cancer. Our department heads have been such an amazing group of people to work with. I haven't worked closely with all of them, but I'm grateful for the patient and kind help of Scott Henderson and Doug Robbins, John Borgett, who's now retired, Dan Follett, Scott Bunker, Bill Pepperoni, Gordon Haight, Chief Beebe, and Isaac Paxman, and many others, past and present. You've all been so dedicated to this city and made my job easier and so enjoyable. That was like the secret thing I didn't know when I got elected, that there's so many incredible and able staff to help you. I also want to thank my fellow council members and the mayor. Each council member, and I won't go on at length here, but they all bring different gifts to the council, and there are many to mention, but I'm especially grateful for Travis's sense of humor and keeping things light when we get a little too serious, for Becky's kindness and friendliness, Rachel's compassion, Craig's enthusiasm, Gary's graciousness, and Catrice's hard work and dedication. Those are just a few of their gifts, but they have many. And since this is her last meeting, as well as mine,
Oh my stuff, everybody.
I brought a little something for Michelle. She's led this city with her heart and with great love for people. It's a rare thing to have a mayor who's not afraid to express love or show emotion and to be real. She's not forgotten who she is or where she came from or what she's about. This is a gift I framed for her. This is a photograph I took one early November morning when I used to trail run at the mouth of Rock Canyon. I'm very proud of that photo, but it shows, I think it's a special gift from me to you because of our shared love for Rock Canyon, for Bundles Fork, and for the foothills and trails of this great city. I also want to congratulate Jeff Whitlock and Marcia Judkins on their election success, and I wish them all the success in the world. When I was elected, I was nervous that people might be wary of someone who probably sounded different to their ears when I was campaigning. But I quickly learned that the council and the city staff are people of goodwill who are eager to work with me. And I trust the council and the staff will give both Jeff and Marcia every chance of success that they gave me. The mayor and the council have a lot of hard issues to confront going forward: housing affordability, worries about drought and water conservation, air quality, traffic, and public safety, among many others. And they can only be tackled by working together. It's the easiest thing in the world to assume someone who thinks differently than you do about a political issue has a moral flaw. And I know that I have made that mistake. I've tried to repent whenever I did. But the fact is, Provo is a very plural and blended city now, politically, more so than any other city in Utah County. And I personally believe this is an opportunity and a strength. We still retain a strong conservative tradition in Provo, as we should. But we also have many moderates, liberals, and independents. And we have a chance to show the state and the nation that we are at our best when we listen to each other with respect and interest, and we remain open to good ideas. We are at our worst when we see these differences as threats. City politics are not really well suited, in my judgment, for slogans or party platforms or political ideologies. City problems are best solved when we stop using labels and we become willing and even eager to listen and work together among our differences in a spirit of goodwill. That's the spirit of politics that we need to hold on to here in Provo. It is our lifeline as a community and as a nation. Fortunately, we rely as a city on a good number of diverse, proactive, fair-minded, and intelligent citizens who push us constantly to be at our best. Even when I've been pushed against my will, I've been grateful for our incredible citizens of Provo. So thank you especially to the engaged citizens of Provo. You are a blessing. I will be dedicating my coming years to a nonprofit that will work to bring even more, to convert even more people, as many as possible, to this good cause of principled and loving civic engagement. Thank you so very much for this opportunity to serve you.
Thanks, George. So well written. I have nothing written. I'm just going to quickly say this has been the best chapter of my life. It's been amazing. I don't see anything ever even comparing to it or topping this 8+ years. And again, for me, it's always been about the people of the community, the people I get to work with every day. It's truly been an honor and privilege to work alongside all of you employees. And my office, they have just been full of lies lately. Scott looked me in the eye today and said, "No more surprises, Mayor." And then he just leaned over and said, "That's my last lie to you." I'm over the lies, you guys. I just want to quickly say, I couldn't be the mayor without the support of my husband. It's hard to be up in front of a city of 120,000, and everywhere you go, even down in St. George and everywhere, people are talking to the mayor and questioning. I love going to the grocery store on Saturdays because I love having to face the people. My kids don't come with me. My husband hates it. He goes out and sits in the truck. But I love it. I love it. And through all these 8+ years, people have always commented, "We saw your husband slip in," and he does. He slips in the back usually, sits as far away from me as he possibly can, and hopes that nobody draws attention to him. And I saw him slip in tonight, and Gary, thanks for calling him up. He doesn't like attention, so that was good. But thank you, honey. I couldn't serve a community and be as actively engaged without the support of you. So thank you, everyone.
You're welcome, and thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Handley. On the agenda, we'll continue now with the next item, which is a ceremony recognizing the Provo City Employee of the Month. This will be presented to us by our Chief Administrative Officer, Scott Henderson.
Thank you, Chair and Municipal Council. In December, the Mayor's Office was designated to provide an Employee of the Month. Instead of an individual, Mayor Kafusi and the Mayor's Office chose a group recognition under the leadership concept of One Provo. In the same time frame, we were able to hear from all of our department leaders on their accomplishments at a 2025 success celebration earlier this past month. Provo's progress is amazing, and a group recognition is appropriate. For a moment, let's focus on the one in One Provo. The one can reflect all of us working together for our community. In this concept of collective talent, there is no issue we cannot solve. The one also notes the power of every individual employee, citizen, council member, and mayor to make a difference in Provo through their efforts. The one in One Provo can also represent that Provo has been named the #1 best performing city in independent assessments. I tell new employees during their orientation that they are joining a national champion, and they need to help us keep the momentum going. Tonight, there is no award to be given for this group award, but we would like to have a photo. So we ask the council and mayor to all stay in your seats. And then we would like to have you allow us to have a representative group of city employees come join you both up in the dais. And if we have enough, we'll fill up this side too. But at this point, we join the best employees that Provo City would ever want. And I give you the One Provo.
Where's your music?
Wow.
Welcome. It's so wonderful to have you join our council meeting and give you this appropriate recognition. Yes, please do fill in behind us on the dais. Also, when that's full, in front here too, Scott.
Well, let's fill in right here. Don't be shy. Cody, come on. Daniel, let's go.
That was thoughtful of you. I did get one.
Yes, come here in front as well.
We don't want to miss anyone.
It's great to see the faces and feel the energy of the many employees that make Provo City great.
Holy cow, there's no way.
Feel right in. We have more room in front as well.
Happy here. Yeah.
Everybody, I need everyone to really scoot in this way.
Turn sideways. There you go. Let's move sideways.
Kara, come right up here, right up to the table. There you go.
You're bellying up to the bar, front and center with this area.
Of course.
Hey, good. How are you?
Right here. Right here.
You gotta go higher. Yeah. No, you're perfect.
We got the elevated camera.
Yes.
Jeremy's got to do it himself.
Hey, ready, everybody?
All right. If you can't see me, then tap the person in front of you and say, "Can you switch places with me?"
I got this right here.
More fun.
All right, on the count of three. Say, Provo's great.
Provo's great.
Say, one Provo.
One Provo. Two
This side
Provo.
needs to come in more. Just a few, you guys just filter in. Same, insurance. Needs to get in a little bit. There you go. It's a little more on this side. Basically, we're not past the edge of that. That's better.
Where's the
All
mayor?
right. Everyone say, "I love photos." Not really. All right, now we do something silly. We are. All right. Woo. Yeah. Good work, guys.
Thank you, Provo City employees. Scott, what a great idea to recognize all those wonderful employees. And Mayor, thanks for your help with that as well. We agree we have the best workforce in the state as a municipality. Thank you. We'll continue our council meeting now with our public comment period. As indicated on the screen, you'll see our agenda for tonight, which is fairly lengthy. A required public hearing will be held for each agenda item prior to council action. After each item has been presented, time to comment will be provided for all who wish to speak. For items that do not require a public hearing, public comment will still be taken. At this time, up to 15 minutes have been set aside for an open period, which is intended to allow for comment on matters that do not appear on the agenda, but are limited to topics regarding municipal business or within municipal council purview. During our public comment period, speakers are generally limited to 2 minutes each. Due to noticing requirements, no formal action will be taken in this meeting or on matters that do not appear on the agenda. Those with comments can approach the podium at this time. If there are any listening by Zoom who would like to make a comment, you can use the raise hand feature on your phone, and on your computer will acknowledge you. So if there's anyone here who would like to offer public comment on items that do not appear on the agenda, you can approach the podium at this time. And then just begin by giving us your name and your city of residence.
My name is Jeremiah Mon, Mapleton, Utah. Just really quickly, I found out recently from my property manager that my personal information is now needing to be made available to my renters, which is a little bit of a difficult situation to be in. There's always been a requirement in the city to disclose on a lease the zoning and the occupancy and the parking requirements of a lease, which I've never had a problem with. I've loaned in Provo for a long time. But recently there's been, I don't know if it's a change to the ordinance or a change to the enforcement. I just want to bring it up to the council that now the property manager is required to include in every single lease my rental dwelling license information and make that available to the tenants, and then have the tenants sign an acknowledgement. We've always had the requirement to sign the acknowledgement, but it's new that they're saying, hey, this document has to be provided and then returned to the city. And that's obviously something I'm not personally comfortable with. As you can imagine, not all tenants are the most rational folks, and sometimes, and I would love for my address and personal information not to be on that kind of a document. Obviously for the sake of my kids, I wouldn't want, I mean, I've had somebody actually show up to my house, a tenant just a couple weeks ago. And that was pretty concerning to see that happen. So I think that's a policy that should probably be reconsidered. And I'd love it if the city council could take a look at that in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Jeremiah.
I don't know if this is more a question to, or something to consider going forward.
Just share your name with us.
Catherine Hall.
Catherine, thank you.
I live in District 2, Provo, Utah. We all are aware of the issues of illegal rentals, illegal duplexing. In my neighborhood, we have a owner who has illegally duplexed 2 homes. Their fines are up over $50,000. My question to the council is there something that once they reach a certain point, I know they go to court, but even if they're going to court, they can continue to rent. What is the next step to kind of bring these people into compliance is what I want to know. And I don't know if there is something already written that addresses that, or if it's something we need to start addressing. Because that's $50,000 is a significant amount of fines for one owner. Anyway, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else? If not, we'll close public comment and continue with the next item on our agenda, which is a resolution consenting to board and commission appointments. This will be presented by Mayor Kaufusi.
Thank you, Chair Garrett and Vice Chair Whipple, and members of the Municipal Council. I am recommending the following appointments and reappointment to Provo City boards and commissions as indicated below, and submit this for the council's advice and consent. Ryan Kohler. Ryan is a licensed civil engineer with over 16 years of experience. His specialty is roadway geometrics, and he's very familiar with the roadway standards and design criteria. I'm recommending Ryan be appointed to a vacant alternate position on the Transportation and Mobility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2028. James Brookhart. James is a multi-unit franchise operator and has experience in reviewing traffic flow and access for business site selections. He has represented operators nationwide on the Franchise Council. He is committed to helping improve mobility around Provo City for both walking and driving. I am recommending James be appointed to a vacant alternate position on the Transportation and Mobility Advisory Committee for a 3-year term ending June 30th, 2028. Fred Bandley. Fred previously served on the Energy Board and Planning Commission and has since retired from Intermountain Healthcare after more than 4 decades. He is committed to serving the community and preserving public power benefits for the community. I am recommending Fred be appointed to the Energy Board to fill the seat vacated by Aaron Hernandez for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2029. And Carolyn Jardine. I am recommending that Carolyn be reappointed to a 4-year term on the Energy Board ending December 31st, 2029.
Thank you, Mayor. Any questions for Mayor Kaufusi on these appointments? We'll open a period of public comment. If there are any here who would care to comment on any of these proposed appointments, we invite you to come to the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion and for a vote. Councillor McKay?
Yes.
Councillor Christensen?
Yes.
Councillor Hanley?
Yes.
Councillor Bogdan?
Yes.
Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Yes.
and Counselor Garrett, yes. That resolution passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have a resolution authorizing a conservation easement for city-owned parcels in Provo Canyon. This will be presented by one of our council policy analysts, Malia Daly. Welcome, Malia.
Thank you. Okay. I've never been nervous presenting the council, and I'm nervous today, I think, because this means a lot to Councilor Hanley and Mayor Kafusi. So very excited about this item. What we're presenting today is years worth of work to create a conservation easement on some city-owned parcels in Bunnells Fork, which is up Provo Canyon. So just for the public, and here we are for the record as well, just some details on what we're actually doing and how this came about. So there are 3 city-owned parcels that are proposed to be placed into a conservation easement. They're in Bunnells Canyon or Bunnells Fork. The parcels are not within city boundaries. They're not in Provo City limits, but they are owned by Provo City. As far as the conservation easement, Provo City, who's the landowner and the grantor, if you read through the conservation easement document, grantor and grantee are referred to frequently. The grantor is the city, and then Utah Open Lands, which is a 501c3 nonprofit here in Utah, whose mission is to preserve and protect open space and important natural resources throughout the state. They are the grantee, and they would be the easement holder of the land. So how and why and kind of the mechanisms of how we got here, I'll kind of talk through the process in a second, but just more overarching in regards to state code and city processes. So there's a provision in Utah state code that allows the city to provide assistance to qualifying nonprofits. So Utah, to help further their mission, and as long as that mission then also aligns and the action that we're taking aligns with Provo City plans and presents a benefit to Provo City residents. So in that vein, we're presenting a conservation easement on these 3 lands to Utah Open Lands, who would hold the easement, which with no initial or ongoing cost to the city or taxpayers. This aligns with Provo City general plan goals, Hillside and Canyons plan goals, conservation and resiliency goals, all of which have been thoroughly vetted public documents that have been through the public process and approved by council and mayor. So the process that we undertook to go through this, there was an MOU, so a memorandum of understanding between the city and the Utah Open Lands. That's the nonprofit. Just about what this process would entail, the goals of the process, what the easement eventually would look like, and that there would be no monetary exchanges through the easement process. Provo City, as part of that, is understood in a conservation easement that Provo City maintains ownership of the land. So even through this process, Provo City will still own those parcels. They are still ours ultimately, and we're a partner in the conservation easement on how the parcel is then managed and what is allowed and not allowed there. After the MOU, Provo City and Utah Open Lands drafted an easement. And I'm going to have a little personal privilege here. I just want to give a thanks. Provo City employees did a lot of work on this and were very, very helpful. This was started as kind of a elected official initiative, and Provo City employees jumped right on board and did a lot of work. I do not know the details of what Public Works and Parks and Rec and Development Services and legal all need when it goes to how we manage land. I purely was just setting up Zoom meetings and asking people to help. So I just want to say thank you to Provo City employees and Utah Open Lands employees who did all of the baseline documentation, which was then edited and reviewed by our own employees as well. So it was truly a massive group effort. So easement, there's also a public interest valuation study, which is an exhibit in the resolution. This just details out why this is a benefit to taxpayers and to the city and how it aligns with our city's goals. And then the final step in this process is to pass a resolution tonight. The city council, the legislative body, needs to pass a resolution authorizing the city and the executive, so the mayor, to place the property into a conservation easement. Again, the city would still maintain ownership of the land, but as far as easement and development, that would then be joint managed with Utah Open Lands. And that is all I have. I know if you have any questions though, I would be happy to answer. And I know there's a lot of support here, and Utah Open Lands is also here if you have any questions for them.
Thank you, Malia. Any questions of clarification for Malia? Thank you, Malia. This item is also open for public comment, so would like to invite any here who would like to make a comment to approach the podium at this time. Begin by stating your name and city of residence.
Hi, I'm Kay Nilson. I am a Provo resident. I'm also Executive Director for Conserve Utah Valley. And this is a thrilling event for us tonight. We have been working with Provo City for probably 4.5, almost 5 years to get this conservation easement to the finish line. So I think Christmas is coming early this week for a lot of people. It's such a beautiful area, and you're sending a message that these beautiful, open, pristine spaces mean something to people, and that we want to protect them and keep them for now and for future generations. So I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you to all the staff who have worked so hard and pulled meetings together and done all the research. And I know that a ton of time has gone into this. So thank you so much from Conserve Utah Valley.
Thank you, Kay. Thank you for your leadership and your efforts over these last 5 years.
This may seem a bit self-serving because I am Wendy Fisher and I'm the Executive Director of Utah Open Lands. But I had to say, I had to come up here tonight because this kind of feels a little bit like coming home to be able to talk about the conservation easement for this amazing piece of property, Bunnell's Fork. I actually grew up in Utah County, and my passion and my interest in safeguarding something for the next generation in these open spaces, in these places where we hike and bike and ride horses, was forged in the river bottoms and in the foothills. And so after 35 years working throughout the state of Utah to place conservation easements on critical watershed lands, open spaces, wildlife habitat, those places that we recreate, to be here in my kind of hometown and to have this up for discussion and potential approval with the Provo City Council makes me extremely proud. So thank you.
Thank you, Wendy.
Hello, I'm Brayman Leak. I'm a homeowner in District 5. I'll also represent BYU on the Provo City Mayor's Sustainability Committee. And so I just want to say that I'm fully supportive of these conservation easements. Spent a lot of time up these canyons and see our students. There are 35,000 students at BYU enjoying these natural spaces. And with these conservation easements, I think that they'll continue to be able to enjoy those. So I just want to say thanks to the mayor and the city council members and to the Provo City employees who worked on those and wanted to be here in person to just show my thanks.
Thank you, Bremen. Anyone else?
Good evening, Taylor Money, Orem, Utah. Thanks for the opportunity to comment, and thank you, Councilman Hanley. Your writing was inspiring and really useful for me when I was doing my geography degree at BYU. So appreciate that. Again, asking y'all to vote in favor of the easement. Beautiful piece of land. Got to spend some time up there today. It's a little icy. It's great. Not enough snow. An easement will allow it to continue to support flora, fauna, drinking water, the views and hiking, and hopefully will serve as an example throughout Utah and the country. Been really impressed with the parks and recreation progress that the city has made over the past couple of years, and think this will be a great addition to that. And I think it's fitting that we talk about it now during Christmas time because we have the opportunity to give the gift of open lands to ourselves and future generations. So thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. Anyone else? All right, thank you. Thanks to all. Oh, yes, one more. Go ahead.
My name is Daniel Jensen. I volunteer on the board of the Utah Valley Trails Alliance, a small nonprofit in the area. Similar to others, wanted to voice my support and appreciation for all those who have worked on this and look forward to seeing these areas protected for many generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
Catherine Hall again from District 2. We want to thank everyone that worked on this project. I access that canyon and those hiking trails even in the winter. I've gone from one side to the other side. I love that area. It's beautiful. You get so far in and it's almost like you're in your own little world. There's not a lot of people around. So thank you for everyone, Open Lands and Conserve Utah Valley for all your hard work, the mayor and everyone else involved. We really appreciate it. And we hope that this opens the door to looking at some other high value areas in Provo City for conservation easements. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Last call. All right, thank you. We'll close public comment then and bring the item back to council for discussion. Councilors, any comments or discussion before we call for a vote? Councilor Handley.
I just want to echo the thanks, especially to Malia for kind of spearheading a project that had many hands or many cooks in the kitchen or whatever metaphor you want to use, but it was a challenging coordinating effort to get everyone to the table and get all the perspectives. So thank you to all the city staff and to Wendy Fisher and Utah Open Lands, Conserve Utah Valley. They've been especially patient over a long time and persistent. What is it? Gentle pressure relentlessly applied, which I think Craig Christensen once coined. But it worked. It paid off. And I'm just so grateful. And I'm especially grateful to the mayor for her support to make this happen. I'm very, very excited. I think it's a beautiful place. And unlike Big Springs, even though it's so close, it has a wilder feel to it. I think it's more precious that way, and I think I'm sure it has greater wildlife and ecological health as a result, and it needs to stay that way. So I think this will be a great blessing for our grandchildren and great grandchildren. I think it's a wonderful thing. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Anyone else? Councilor Christensen.
Well, I also would like to just thank so many people who made this happen. This was one of the reasons that I ran for the city council, is because there were just ridiculous things happening with Bridal Veil Falls. Just unbelievable things were happening to our hillsides and just unspeakable things that were tried to happen with the Utah Lake. And it was like, this is just nutty. Couldn't we just have a voice of reason? I believe in conservation easements. What Wendy has done is set an example for all of us in terms of how the city maintains ownership. I just want everyone to be really clear. The city decides what happens on that easement. That's what this memorandum of understanding is. It remains city property. What Utah Open Lands does is act as a guardian to make sure that those covenants are fulfilled. So much like Central Park in New York City, it would not be a park if it wasn't protected. And so this protects it forever. I'm grateful to the mayor and her leadership and her staff. They have done remarkable things. And Malia, kudos. We're going to do a round of applause afterwards because Malia has worked tirelessly to make this happen. So, and George has provided such great leadership. Thank you to all of you who have supported this. This is the kind of gift, you're right, this is the kind of gift, Christmas gift that comes early and keeps giving and giving and giving from generation to generation. So thank you for everyone who's been a critical part of this.
Thank you, Craig. Anyone else? If not, we'll call for a vote and we'll let you lead out, Counselor Hanley.
Yes.
Counselor Christensen,
Absolutely.
Counselor Bogdan,
Yes.
Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes, and Counselor McKay.
Yes.
This resolution passes by a vote of 7-0. I wish we could end the meeting now. Yeah. Next, we have an implied motion on an ordinance amending Provo City Code regarding the Neighborhood District Program map. This will be presented by our Community Relations Coordinator, Rachel Breen. Welcome, Rachel.
Oh, hello, council. Appreciate you letting me speak to you today. So I'm going to talk about a proposed change in our neighborhood district map. And this is something that is in the city code, so would require an ordinance change. The first item is splitting the Carterville neighborhood along the Provo River. This was a request from one of the Carterville neighborhood board members. He had a statement that he wanted me to read about why he's requesting to split the Carterville neighborhood. When talking to the residents of the area and the proposed new neighborhood, most of the individuals are in favor of splitting the Carterville neighborhood along the Provo River. The river already acts as a natural divide in the area, with the area's characteristics also being different due to the river. Many of my neighbors in the area feel that this split would give them a better chance to be heard, since in the past, this part of Carterville feels like it was ignored and forgotten about. Until this past year, we did not get notice about the district meetings, and when asked about this to former board members, the response was, "You guys don't matter." This split would give the two neighborhoods about an equal number of residents. The east side of Provo River asks you please divide the Carterville neighborhood. Thanks for your time, David Alderks. And just to kind of show the different populations in District 4, you can see listed Grandview North, Grandview South, River Grove. They all have about 2,000 to 3,000 people. North Park has a little bit more in 5,000, and Carterville has over 9,000 residents. So you see it's a much larger population than the other neighborhoods in that district. And if you were to split Carterville along the Provo River, which is already a natural divide, it would bring it kind of equally about 4,000 on each side. And we've asked the residents there at our neighborhood meetings, they're in favor. The District 4 board is in favor. Their reasons being the needs are different in the two communities. This would give them more representation. There's already that dividing point of the Provo River, and it would give District 4 6 neighborhoods, making them even with most of the other districts in the city. And also, just to clarify, they wanted to name the new neighborhood Brickyard in honor of the historic Brickyard, Provo Brickyard, which is where I think Shirley's Bakery is about now. So wanted to recognize that. So the upper area would remain Carterville. The newer area would be renamed Brickyard. And then another change that we are proposing to make to the map is right now the city council districts are numbered 1 through 5, and the neighborhood districts are also numbered 1 through 5, which caused a lot of confusion in this past election. As you can see that map where the city recorder was trying to explain the differences between it. It was very confusing for people because they had been attending their neighborhood meetings for years, but then they were confused when they got their ballot and it had a different number on there. And so it was very confusing. And the council districts, just give some history, they are divided by precinct boundaries and they're based on population size, and those are redrawn every 10 years. The neighborhood districts, those are done by historic neighborhood boundaries. grouped by similar concerns, and it's just kind of the more historic. They've stayed the same for years and years on that. And so we had in our work meeting that we had with the city council, we had mentioned the city council motion was to name the neighborhood districts with letters instead of numbers. So districts A, B, C, D, E instead of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That way you would have council districts with numbers and the neighborhood districts with letters. I just wanted to point out when I did bring this proposal to the neighborhood district boards, I had 5 board members who said that they would prefer descriptive names to their neighborhood districts. And they specified north, east, west, northwest, and central. They felt like that would be clearer for their residents on that. And so just again, that there's the proposed map that would be in section 1.08.040, where they split the Carterville neighborhood. You can see in that red area, the Carterville and Brickyard neighborhoods, and showing the ABCDE as motioned in the work meeting. And that's my presentation. If you have any questions for me.
Thank you, Rachel. Any questions for Rachel? All right. Thank you, Rachel. If there's anyone here who would like to make a public comment regarding this proposed ordinance, we're happy to listen to it at this time.
I promise this will be my last one for the night. Appreciate Rachel, love her. She does such great work with the districts. We do feel, some of us do feel like the descriptors, because A, what is A? You move into a neighborhood, we don't know what A means. Where does it start? Where does it begin? At least the descriptors would give you an idea of which district you belong to when you start getting information. And so that's why we felt like those were a little better than just the letters. But we love Rachel. She's done a great job. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
My name is Aaron Wheatley. I like this a lot. I literally was just looking at the map in the hallway trying to figure out, because I'm in Council District 2, but I was pretty sure I wasn't in Neighborhood District 2. I couldn't remember. So I just looked at it. So I didn't even know this was going to be on. I saw this was going to be split, but I didn't know this part was going to be on here. Descriptors would be really nice for me as well. I could remember where I am. Wouldn't be super confusing. I'm from the Joaquin neighborhood. I remember that. I can remember where these different things would be. That would be awesome. I'm seeing lots of smiles. I bet it's probably already unanimous, but it just was funny because I was literally just outside doing that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Aaron. Anyone else?
Hey there, I'm Jack James. I'm in District 5 in Provo. I mean, I'm kind of indifferent about changing it if we're going to. I'd also be very much in favor of changing it to descriptors. Might as well have some character to it if it's going to have a change.
Thank you, Jack. Anyone else? All right, we'll close public comment and bring the item to council for discussion. Councillor McKay.
This makes me so happy because I was in the minority who wanted it to be names. So I would make a substitute motion that we switch it to names and do it, but do the brickyard and everything.
I second that substitute motion.
Yes.
So a motion to use descriptors as the, to describe each district.
Yes.
With a motion by Councillor McKay with a second by Councillor Whipple. Any discussion on this substitute motion or on, before we take a vote on the motion, on the motion as a whole? Councillor Christensen?
It seems to make sense to me.
Anyone else?
Yeah, as long as
Councillor
the
Hamlin?
yellow section is like named the best part of town.
George, I disagree.
All right. So just to clarify then, Rachel, that would be north, east, west, northwest, and central is the proposal. All right, we'll take a vote. Councillor Christensen.
Yes.
And this is on the substitute motion. Councillor Bogdan?
Yes.
Councillor Hoban?
Power to the people. Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes. Counselor McKay
Yes.
and Counselor Handley.
Yes.
That motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you for your helpful comments tonight. Next, we have an ordinance amendment. We need to vote on the original motion.
Well, on the implied motion,
On the
approving
implied-
the ordinance, because what you've essentially done now is amended the ordinance to make the change. Now you need to approve the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Okay, so now we'll vote on the implied motion. Counselor Handley,
Yes.
Counselor Bogdan,
Yes.
Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes. Counselor McKay
Yes.
and Counselor Christensen.
Yes.
So that implied motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Next, we have an ordinance amending Provo City Code Chapter 5.09 Recreation, Arts and Parks Tax, providing for the imposition, collection, and distribution of local sales and use tax to fund recreation, arts, and parks. This will be presented by our City Recorder, Heidi Ullman. Welcome, Heidi.
Thank you. Hello, Council and Mayor. I'm hoping that my item tonight will be the fastest on the agenda. That's my goal. So get right to it. With this last election, the voters, almost 86% voted in favor and passed the RAP tax. This is kind of the last step. The last thing that we need is to change or to pass this ordinance and change our code to update the dates that the next 10 years of our collection of the RAP tax will be approved for. So that's really all I have. This is just updating the code, just changing those dates.
Thank you, Heidi. Any questions for Heidi? We'll open this item for public comment. If there are any here who wish to speak to this item, you may approach the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and invite council discussion. Counselor Hoban?
Yeah, I think so some taxes, somebody might move into the neighborhood and not have kids in the school and they're paying property taxes and benefiting the school. But I would venture to say there's not a single person in Provo that isn't directly being benefited by our RAP tax. So excited for us to renew this. And it's also great because it captures revenue from people that come and visit Provo as well. So it's a great way to fund the city all around.
Thank you, Travis. And yes, it's our first renewal. It's a 10-year term. So we've just voted in a second 10-year term. Other comments? All right, we'll call for a vote. Counselor Bogdan?
Yes.
Counselor Hoban?
Yes.
Counselor Whipple?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett? Yes. Counselor McKay?
Yes.
Counselor Christensen?
Yes.
And Counselor Handley?
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes by a vote of 7-0. Next, we have an ordinance amending authority to settle claims under Provo Code Section 3.10.050, presented by our Senior Assistant City Attorney, Richard Roberts. Or by Brian Jones? By our City Attorney, Brian Jones.
Rich reminded me 3 times today that he had to go to an event for his daughter, and I've forgotten again until there was silence in the room. So this is a pretty simple code cleanup item. What this really amounts to is the ordinance that talks about settling claims requires certain claims over a certain dollar amount to be settled by the mayor. We've had a couple of instances in the last year where we realized it was potentially actually a conflict of interest to have the mayor make the decision because of her relationship with the claimant. And so we've added the words "or her designee" so that in those situations, she can designate someone else to actually make the decision. The other change that's being made is there was already a provision in the code that automatically escalated the dollar amounts by inflation earlier this year. But while we were making edits anyway, we went in and changed the old numbers to the new numbers so that you wouldn't have to go try to find them somewhere else and they're actually just in the code. That and changing some archaic language, those are the changes. So that's all of the only substantive thing is just this part of allowing the mayor to designate someone to handle certain claims decisions. Any questions?
Thank you. Questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian. Are there any who would like to speak publicly about this item? If so, you can approach the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion. Any comments or discussion, councilors? If not, we'll call for a vote. Councilor Hoban?
Yes.
Councilor Whipple?
Yes.
Councilor Garrett? Yes. Councilor McKay?
Yes.
Councilor Christensen?
Yes.
Councilor Handley?
Yes.
And Councilor Bogdan?
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes by a vote of 7-0. Next, we have an implied motion on an ordinance amending Provo City Code Chapter 9.51.010. This will be presented by our Fire Marshal, Lynn Schofield. Welcome, Lynn.
Thank you. I'm back. So, thank you for having us. We're just going to review quickly what this implied motion is, which is to adopt the 2006 edition of the Wildland Urban Interface Code. Okay. And this is just a refresher. We've been through this. This is for the folks who are here tonight that didn't get to see me the last time. So last year, the state legislature adopted House Bill 48, which requires the city to adopt the Wildland Urban Interface Code 2006 edition by January 1st to continue to be a participating entity. A participating entity means that because of some of the things that we do within the fire department and within the city to manage our risk along our interface, if we have a fire that originates on Provo City property, that the state will step in and help fund the fire suppression costs of that. And so it's important for us as a city to maintain that participating entity status. So to do that, there's a couple of things that have to happen. The first one is we have to adopt the 2006 edition of the Wildland Urban Interface Code. And we need to do that by the first of the year. And so I think that leaves us tonight. And then the second thing is the state is working on a risk map that identifies the high-risk wildland urban interface areas for each municipality. That is not complete yet. When that becomes complete, then we will put some input in for some of the local historical information that we have based on our experience here in the Provo City area. And then we will be back, and by we, I mean somebody else will be back with a map for your advice and consent to add to our municipal code as our wildland urban interface map. We're hoping to have that by the first part of next year and then be back to you soon. So the purpose of the interface code is basically threefold. It's to prevent a wildland fire from coming down into our city from our beautiful mountains. It is to prevent fires that originate in our city, in an outbuilding, in a shed, with a lawnmower, from spreading into the wildland urban interface. And then the last one is in the event that we have a fire that comes in from the interface, that the fire doesn't spread from structure to structure, so you don't end up with those large conflagrations that we've seen in recent years in Colorado, Hawaii, and California. So that's the purpose of the WUI code. How does this fit into our Provo plan? It's just a logical continuation of what we've already been doing. We're in the 4th or 5th year of a very successful wildland urban interface program. As an aside, I visited a friend of mine yesterday, and one of the very first things that she did, she lives up in the northeast part of the city. One of the very first things that she did is to take myself and Captain Atherton over to her window so we could look out her backyard, which goes down off of the bench onto University Avenue, to see the work that they'd accomplished last year. And And she was very proud of that work. They did a lot of work. So it's a natural continuation of what we're already doing as a city, which you already been just so generous in allowing us to do and helping us do. We have our clearly defined discharge restricted area and our fireworks in the parks program, which has been just hugely successful in preventing fireworks fires in our city, in our experience over the last 5 years. And then we also have some of the 2006 is already written into our critical hillside overlay zone. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. This code only applies to new construction. This is not a code for all intents and purposes. This code does not apply to homes that are already established up in what will be identified as the wildland urban interface zone, with the exception of they're going to have an assessment, which we'll talk about a little later. And it doesn't apply retroactively. So unless somebody meets a threshold, in code speak it, meets a threshold, meaning they do more than a 50% remodel, and by remodel, I mean an exterior remodel of their home, or if they replace their roof, there may be some code implications. But other than that, this doesn't retroactively apply. We're not going back into people who already live there and come in and saying, you know, you need to do this and this and this. There are some things we're going to give them really good encouragement for, but the code itself does not retroactively apply. We're going to breeze through these really fast. We have the administration. This is all code speak stuff. I'll happily answer anybody's questions who want to answer questions, but we've been through this. We do this every year. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering how the fee is assessed. Like, is it through their property taxes or
Yes.
is it? It is. Okay.
Yes, it'll be through their property taxes and it'll be payable to the county.
Okay.
So
Will it be listed as its own line item then, I
Yes.
assume?
yes, thank you. Our definitions, and then it tells us what we have to do as a municipality, which is to declare our wildland or urban interface area, and then provide a map for our citizens so that they know that they're in it. And the last one, this is an important one. The code actually provides that every 3 years we can reassess that designation in the WUI area. That's important because as we continue to develop, some of our areas are going to develop, and as that development occurs, their wildland urban interface is going to change just a little bit. So I think that's a very important caveat that people need to understand.
To that end, Lynn, just curious, did the interface area change 3 years ago?
We have not had a map published.
This is the first published map.
Correct.
Okay.
In the first published map that we got from the state, and we've looked at it, there are actually areas in the west of I-15
Mhm.
that are designated to the current edition of the map as WUI areas, high-risk WUI areas, which doesn't make sense. And those areas have now been developed and there's no problem there.
Mhm.
So, but for me, bringing this to you, the fact that we do have that appeal process every 3 years to make changes as the city builds out, I think is really important for our citizens to understand that. There's some the requirements that we're looking at. We're looking at access, road grades, road widths, how we mark those roads, and the water supply are two of the big things that we worry about is firefighting in the wildland urban interface. Do we have hydrants? Do we have places that we can draft from? Ponds, swimming pools, rivers, things like that. Do we have tanks? And if we have tanks, do we have reliable pumping systems? And are they protected so that we could utilize them? Those are things that are brought up in chapter 4 and 5. And then it also gives us the ability to do some site-specific requirements. Chapter 5 is where this is where the kind of the pinch point is. This is some of the construction requirements for new buildings. They're based on their risk profile. The risk profile is determined by access, and it's also determined by defensible space, what they've done to protect their property and the interface, and also by the topography around their property. All right, and that's going to give us a type 1, type 2, or class 1 or 2 or 3 classification, and the requirements under the code are going to be based on that risk profile. Those requirements are going to be hardening their buildings. When you think of your home, for example, your home is designed to protect each room from fire. It's compartmentalized, but we don't have fire resistance features on the exterior. We don't anticipate a fire coming from the outside into your home. We anticipate it coming from the inside to the out. And so these new construction projects in the interface will have fire resistance requirements on their exterior that's different from what you would find down, in the flatlands. Also some door, they're going to have solid doors, fire rated doors that have a longer fire resistance rating. Their glass is going to be a little bit different. So there's going to be some added expense in this hardening that's going to take place. The other place that we're seeing now is the gable vents will require screening. We've identified, researching these fires that flying brands and embers as they're carried by the wind come in through those gable vents and then they nestle down into the insulation in your home and they cause problems. So there's some new screening requirements that are more restrictive than they have been in the past. Just again, we're trying to protect the fire from going from home to home. That's what we're trying to do. And then roofs, wood shakes are out and less combustible materials are in under the code. Fire protection requirements. Sprinkler systems is a real pinch point in Utah. They're generally written out of the 2006 interface code. We use them as a tool. There are going to be places where we will call them out and require them in our interface based on access and water supply. And that's no different than any other construction that we do in the city now. So defensible space, how easily a fire can move from the interface to your property or from your property to the interface. Can we defend that space so it doesn't ladder up into the crowns of the trees, up into the roof of your structure? And so those are things that are going to be required. And then defensible space around LPG tanks, which we don't have a lot of. And then also putting spark arresters on wood burning chimneys, and then making sure that vehicles that are going on to where we have the designated spark arresters. And looking at combustible storage, typically what we're talking about there is firewood. Where are they storing their firewood? We also are going to ask you to adopt the appendices. Appendix A is vegetation control. Appendix B is vegetation management plan, and it has specific fire resistance vegetation that is good for Utah, for our specific environment. So we'll have you take a look at that. And then we are already using the fire hazard severity form. Captain Atherton goes out every year and does fire assessments in our interface. So that's a gloss over of what the code does. What we're asking you tonight is to adopt the 2006 WUI code. We've given you language. We've given you an ordinance and language for the city code book. We're asking you to adopt that. And then once the map's finalized, we'll be back. Somebody will be back with map for your consideration. The last thing, this is, again, we've been through this, but this is for the folks that are here and interested in this. There are two other things. There is an assessment that is going to be assessed to properties that are identified in the wildland urban interface on the state map. It's payable to the county. That assessment is used for a county fire warden or their agent to come out and do a home assessment and give the resident or property owner things that they can do to improve their situation, make their home more fire resistant. That's the last stick. The carrot is we have seen here in Provo, some of our folks up on the East Bench have had their property taxes go up exponentially because of, as insurance companies are trying to recoup costs from some of the catastrophic fires we've seen over the last couple of years. So the benefit of the House Bill 48 is it provides some protection.
You said property taxes, but you
I'm
meant their
sorry,
insurance,
I'm
right?
talking See, I'm getting old. It's property insurance. It's their property insurance. Their property taxes are going to go up a little bit. Their insurances has gone up a lot. And so the caveat, the carrot in House Bill 48 is this provides us with a baseline and provides our citizens with some protections against predatory insurance companies, providing that they follow the recommendations in those home assessments, create the defensible space as necessary, and their new builds do the hardening. That's it in a nutshell. I'm happy to entertain any questions you've got.
Thank you, Lynn. Any questions for Lynn? Counselor Bogdan.
Lynn, is this your final council meeting?
It is. Well, I might be back in civvies.
Might be back in civvies.
Yeah, there's a couple of things still coming your way. So, but yes, this is my final council meeting, and if I may have a moment of personal privilege.
Absolutely.
I just want you to know, I've done this for nearly 3.5 decades.
Wow. Holy cow.
Hate this. And we're on camera too. It has been a great honor for me to serve. I can't remember whether I'm an unelected staffer or an unelected bureaucrat, but whichever one I am, I have had way more good days than bad days. I have had the opportunity to interact with the citizens and the council and the mayors and administrations for the last 35 years. And it has been my great honor to serve here. And while I'm excited to be moving on to the next phase of my life, we have you prepared very well. You can see with Chief Hedden seated behind me is Captain Atherton, who runs our WUI program and does a fantastic job. And Deputy Fire Marshal Kobe Hubbs, Deputy Fire Marshal for another 15 days, who will take my place as the Fire Marshal. Both of them have just recently achieved their National Association of Fire Investigators national credential as certified fire investigators. I leave you better than I found you. And I am just honored for the opportunity to be here and to share this chapter of my life. And I look forward to moving on, but I'm going to miss it. It's been a great ride. Thank you.
Lynn, thank you so much. Becky?
I was going to say, I appreciate all of your service and your hard work to the community. And I do appreciate that. Is it Captain Atherton? Is that the promotion? Is she a captain?
Her rank is a captain. She is a deputy fire marshal.
Deputy Fire Marshal and Captain Deputy Fire Marshal Hubbs.
Yes, for 15 more days.
For 15 more days. Congratulations on your accomplishments as well. But I want to give you a round of applause for all your service.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Remarkable service over 35 years. That's outstanding.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for Lynn? Other questions or comments? Yes, Rachel.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
So you did a great job in my neighborhood when our neighbors were very concerned about a company and potential fire hazard. I don't know how many hours you spent in meetings with my neighbors and fielding off aggressive emails in a kind and patient way. You did a fantastic job. And the work that you did with that company and with my neighbors has made my neighborhood better. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you again, Lynn.
Thank you.
We'll open this item for public comment now. If there are any here who would like to speak related to this item, you can approach the podium at this time. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item to council for discussion. Any additional comments, councilors, or questions? Okay, we'll call for a vote. Councilor Whipple?
Yes.
Councilor Garrett, yes. Councilor McKay?
Yes.
Councilor Christensen?
Yes.
Councilor Handley?
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan?
Yes.
And Councilor Hoban?
Yes.
Thank you. This motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. And thank you again, Lynn. Next, we have an implied motion on an ordinance amending Provo City Code 4.04.100 to allow pension eligible employees to receive matching 401k contributions from the city. This will be presented by the city's HR Director, Daniel Softly. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you. This is an amendment to city code to allow post-retired employees to participate in our matching 401k program if they are allowed by URS. So our code currently is written to say that if you are a post-retired employee, otherwise someone who is collecting a pension from URS and you come back to work after a year, the rule says you're not allowed to participate. That is written around a rule from URS that says we're not allowed to do additional contributions for employees in that situation. There is an exception, though, that I'm trying to address today, and that is if the post-retired employee is in a job that does not participate in Social Security, the agency can give them additional 401k contribution. For Provo City, that means our sworn police officers and firefighters. This is a relatively small group. There are currently 5 employees, either sworn officers or firefighters, that are collecting a URS retirement. They have come back to work after a year. This would allow them to participate in our matching 401k program. So the language is written to say that they can all participate as long as URS is okay with it. So if URS ever changes their rules, then we don't need to change our code. So this financial impact would be dependent on whether or not they elected to participate in the program. So that's what we're here for.
Questions for Daniel? Thank you, Mr. Softly.
Okay, thank you.
We'll invite public comment on this item. If there is any, if any would like to speak, you can approach the podium at this time. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item to council for discussion and for a vote. Councillor McKay?
Yes. Yes.
Councillor Christensen?
Yes.
Councillor Hanley?
Yes.
Councillor Bogdan?
Yes.
Councillor Hoban?
Yes.
Councillor Whipple?
Yes.
And Councillor Garrett, yes. This item passes by a vote of 7-0. Our next item is number 10. We are about, I believe, about halfway through our agenda. So we're going to take a 10-minute recess and then come back and move on to the remaining 7 or 8 items on our agenda.
Hey, Brian, I want to see a song and a dance on the break.
To receive input from the public with respect to the issuance of an up to $20 million transportation sales tax revenue bonds for the purpose of financing construction of the airport terminal expansion. This will be presented by our airport director, Brian Torgerson. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Appreciate the council having us here again tonight. Just want to clarify there, we have 3 items tonight. I will present on this first, just give it some background on why we're doing what we're doing. Then Dan Follett's going to come up and do the actual details of the bond. And just for those of the public who maybe didn't see the work session presentation, just want to give clarification on what this bond is. This is not us seeking more money for the project. This is actually just a bridge funding process that allows us to bring funding that's actually identified for the project, but comes in an incremental basis over the next few years, bring that forward to construction as we are at that point in our terminal expansion process. So again, the resolution is to approve a bond up to $20 million. And I'll just go through a little bit about the terminal expansion project. So this is, again, I'll try and speed through this. I know you have a long night and you've seen this, but for those of the public who maybe haven't seen this, this is the current working version of our overall site plan of the airport, those areas in brown, our parking expansion, and then the building itself. We've split it up into phases for various reasons, but we'll explain that a little bit as we move forward here. One of the things that we're excited about, the first kind of the choke point that we've addressed at the airport with expansion this summer is completion of our apron. This allows for expansion of the building and will accommodate up to about 12 passenger gates. We've got that much space. We're not planning the building that big, but we've got some additional parking space for the aircraft. Again, as we've talked, this was one of the major pinch points in our operation, and we're excited to have that asset there at the airport at this point. Had a great contractor, started construction early in the spring and went completed by the first part of November. Here's the phasing plan for the project. The existing terminal there in the center. Phase 2 and phase 3 essentially is one construction project. But again, as we've discussed in the past, we split phase 2 out for FAA funding purposes. We went ahead and got that much of the design done, completed, got a bid back from our contractor and got under contract to take advantage of some federal funding on the project. Phase 3, we're at about an 80% design on phase 3. Just looking to roll into construction. Again, the idea was that between phase 2 and 3, you wouldn't know the difference. There's just, if you were to walk up to the airport, you'd see construction, and phase 2 and 3 is completed at the same time, which is in spring of 2027. So April or May at this point. Phase 4 is future phase. We haven't really even started design of that phase yet. So that's forthcoming. Just some floor plans of what that expansion is going to look like. The far right side is essentially the north edge of our existing terminal. Phase 2 adds ticketing and baggage handling expansion, as well as future space for TSA on the second level. This is level 1. We've got a major component of the expansion is the baggage handling. So this is where your bags go, get screened by TSA, and then put on a large carousel for the airline employees to pick it up, throw it on their tug, and get it out to the aircraft. Level 2, again, we've had a single level configuration at the terminal up to this point. This expansion actually goes to your more typical 2-level layout with all of that operational back of house stuff happening on the ground level, and then your gate seating areas on level 2 with larger restrooms, concession space, and some pretty incredible views from that second level. If you're to go out there today, we've been under construction for about 60 to 70 days, but you wouldn't really know it because it's all kind of behind the fence. But this is an aerial view of temporary facilities that we've had to put in place. When we built the original terminal, we had the luxury of 0 operations occurring during construction. Well, all of that baggage stream, as well as an emergency exit, goes out right into the area where the expansion is going to be. So this area provides for that baggage stream to be uninterrupted and minimize disruption to the airlines as they operate. It also provides for seating area for gate 5. Which we are using 5 gates at the terminal at this point. Just some renderings of what the terminal expansion is anticipated to look like. Again, we're at about an 80% design process in this. So this is, if you were standing at the gate 4 seating area looking north to that's 2-level gate 7 through 10, this is what it would look like. This is about halfway down that's 2-level area on the north side. The gates would be to your left on or behind us, I guess. So this would be looking east towards White Mountain and the Wasatch Range. And then this is the far northeast corner of the terminal. Again, some pretty incredible views. Be a pretty awesome place to be. Just an exterior rendering looking out towards the lake. I tried to get them to use an actual picture. They didn't quite get there, but anyway. And then looking on the ramp side with our jet bridges. So all of the expansion will have passenger boarding bridges. So when everything's complete, full expansion is complete, we anticipate to have 8 passenger boarding bridges, and then 2. The current gates 2 and 3 would remain ground boarding as they do today. One of the things, why are we coming at this point to get this bond? Phase 2 will be starting construction actually next week. You'll start to see security fencing go up. And then this large piece of equipment on the right side, that is to mitigate for liquefaction, which is an issue out on the west side. So this essentially pounds a gravel column down into the ground about 30 feet and prepares the ground for footings and foundations. So phase two, this process will be completed mid-February. And so the hope is, again, to make that a seamless, efficient process between phases 2 and 3. We need to be ready to have a contract in place by middle of February. And again, given the 30-day contest period with a bond, that puts us middle of January is the soonest we could close on the bond, which cuts it pretty close. So just, you've seen this slide before. This slide was shared back in February, the anticipated funding sources for the project. What we've done is just updated those funding sources as time has gone on. Our FAA funding is trending in the right direction. We're seeing a little bit more money than we had anticipated. Our state money's right where it should be. And then really the part we're at tonight is the Provo City contribution with this transportation sales tax. Back in February, we anticipated the possibility of an interim interfund loan to make this bridge funding happen. Talking with the administration and then really going back to our previous conversations on interfund loan, we decided this bond, this revenue bond was probably the way to go. So we've gone that direction. So a little bit about the backing for this bond. It is a sales tax that has been designated specifically for transportation projects. It's a county option sales tax that the county chose to take advantage of back in 2019. And we've actually used this same funding source on the original terminal project. And then we anticipate just extending that out to back for the financing of this bond. Again, we talked about also using passenger facility charge revenue to pay this bond off as quickly as possible. And Dan will talk a little bit more about the term and why we're showing it as a 15-year bond, but the intent is to pay it off in as few as 8 years, just based on the revenue that we have lined up and set aside for the project. Again, Dan will get into that in the next presentation, but again, up to $20 million, 15 years, repaid by the sales tax and PFC revenue. Any questions?
Yes, Councillor Bogdan.
Brian, I need some humor into my life. So can you go to the very first slide? Wait, go back one. One more. Okay, that one on phase 4 all the way on the end.
Yes.
Is that the airplane that ate the other airplanes, or was it still?
Looks like they've got 2 airplanes in one parking spot. So
I'm like, is that a rocket?
maybe they've got the space shuttle piggybacking on that one. I don't know. So just a CAD. Oops, looks like. So
that's awesome.
Good catch, though. That's pretty incredible.
You'd be surprised what your brain goes to at this late at night.
Any other questions for Brian? Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
The purpose of this item is to convene the public hearing related to the issuance of this up to $20 million in bonds. So if there are any who would like to speak to this item in this open public hearing, you're welcome to approach the podium at this time. If not, we'll close the public hearing. Thank you. No vote on this item. We have a couple of additional aspects of the item that we'll address now.
Can I just make a comment?
Yes, Councillor Christensen.
So first of all, I wanted to say thank you. We have an amazing team at the airport. This is a very complex operation. And getting a chance to serve on the airport board, I get a chance to see some of the ins and outs and the intricacies involved in this. And this is like fourth dimensional chess. And so when he presents, he says, phase one, phase two, that is so simplified. This is the equivalent of like working on the outside of an airplane in flight. It's extremely difficult to do. And on top of that, you have to fund all of this. And there's not just one funder. The city and the administration, they've been able to pull together all kinds of different funding sources. And so this interim funding, while those other sources come in, that by itself is just a Herculean feat. So I just wanted to thank the incredible staff and the work that Brian has done at the airport.
Thank you, Councillor Christensen, and I apologize. Is there any other council comment on that proposed bond? All right, we'll move to the next item, which is an implied motion on a resolution authorizing the issuance of transportation sales tax revenue bonds of Provo City, approving related indenture and documents, and authorizing all other actions necessary to complete the transactions presented by our Administrative Services Director, Daniel Follett. Hello,
Thank you.
Dan.
Thank you, Council Chair and Council. The council is being asked to consider approving a resolution that will allow the city to issue up to $20 million worth of bonds for improvements at the airport. This resolution sets the parameters of those bonds. So the principal amount cannot exceed $20 million. They cannot mature in more than 16 years, and they can't bear an interest rate that exceeds 6%. And they can't be sold at a discount from par that exceeds 2%. Again, these bonds, they're known as revenue bonds. And so they're backed by the sales tax revenue that Brian mentioned, the 1/4 cent sales tax revenue that relates to transportation. And this is an eligible use of those funds to fund airport improvements. I bring up that 1/4 cent sales tax because it is in the current rate today, and this will not increase the sales tax rate. It will remain at a total of 7.45% in Provo City. This was implemented a number of years ago and is built into the rate. The other thing I would mention is that these are, again, revenue bonds. Source of repayment is sales tax revenue and or other revenues from the airport. They are not general obligation bonds. They will not increase the residents' property taxes at all, or rates, or what they pay in property tax, since that's not the source of revenue for repayment of the bonds. The other thing I would mention is that Eric Hunter with Chapman and Cutler, that is the bond counsel that is supporting this issuance, is here tonight also if you have any questions for him. And I'd be happy to take any questions at this point.
Great. Thank you, Dan.
Thanks.
Questions for Dan? Yes, Councillor Bogdan.
I just want to point out one thing. So from how I understand this, this is sales tax revenue from the county that is for set aside specifically for specialized purposes. So it's not like we're taking money or the county is taking money that they could use to fund the sheriff's office or other things. This is specifically for these kinds of transportation services.
Yes, it has to be used for that.
And this has to be used for a certain thing. So I'm really grateful that the county has seen how important the airport is, not only to the city of Provo, but to the county as a whole, that they're willing to go ahead and dedicate this money that they have to dedicate to something in the transportation services anyway, to put forth this money to help aid the Provo airport to expand. Looks like Brian's got some.
Just a clarification, these are not county dollars. These are actually Provo City that comes through a county option sales tax.
Oh, okay.
Right. So the county has contributed a large amount. This is not that pot of money that we're talking about tonight.
Oh.
So this is actually money that comes to Provo City because of a county option sales tax.
That's a good clarification. But it can't be spent anywhere else, right? It has to be spent
Correct.
on-
It's designated in law what it can be used for.
Yeah, because we get at times we get constituents that come out and they get upset about how we get some money to fund certain things like the sports park or other things. And when we do this kind of thing, there's just specific pots of money that can only be spent on certain things. And this is one of them. So it's not like your money is getting taken from another option that's a good option, is that they have to be spent in these kinds of ways.
Thank you. Other questions? All right, we'll open this item for public comment. If there are any here who would like to speak to this motion, this resolution, you can approach the podium.
Hello again. My name is Aaron Wheatley. I'm supposed to say where I'm from, right? But where's Joaquin? Which one is that?
Provo.
Joaquin's good? Oh, I'm from Provo. Okay. I was like, I even just looked. I forgot again. So I just flew into Provo a couple weeks ago. I love it. I grew up here in Provo. I actually did my Eagle Scout project at the airport to clean the signs so we could get FAA approval.
I want to talk.
Yeah, after me. And I never imagined that I would use the airport so much back then. It was a cool thing. I knew Steve Gleason. I was interested in aviation, so I thought it was really fun. And I've now used the airport a number of times. It's amazing. Okay, thanks. Let me finish. And I'm just so excited for what the future might hold. Like I said, I never imagined I would use it so much. 1 second. And I can just, thanks. And like I said, I'm just excited for what the future might hold. I would encourage us to get ahead of it. I don't know what prices might be like in the future as well. And being able to build this out, something so beautiful for our community. Obviously it helps a lot economically, but I just think it's amazing what it does connecting people as well. So I'd encourage everyone to vote that way. Again, grateful to be here in Provo. What a beautiful place. Let's keep it and make it even better. I know we can do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. And thank you, Jeff. Impressive. Any other public comment? Okay, if not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion. Councilors, any comments or questions or discussion? All right, we'll move forward with the vote then on this implied motion for the bond. Councilor Christensen,
Yes.
Councilor Hanley,
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan,
Yes.
Councilor Hoban,
Yes.
Councilor Whipple,
Yes.
Councilor Garrett, yes. Councilor McKay.
Yes.
Thank you. This motion passes by a vote of 7-0. Brian, we'll invite you to the podium again for the next item, a resolution appropriating 20 million in the airport fund for airport terminal expansion, applying to the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett. Again, thank you so much for your approval of the bonds. This item just allows us to spend it once we get it. So the resolution is appropriating $20 million in the airport fund so that we can get this project under contract.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Any questions for Brian? We invite public comment again, if there is any. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion. And for a vote, Councilor Hanley,
Yes.
Councilor Bogdan,
Yes.
Councilor Hoban,
Yes.
Councilor Whipple,
Yes.
Councilor Garrett, yes. Councilor McKay,
Yes.
and Councilor Christensen.
Yes.
Thank you. That item passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, Dan. Next, we have an implied motion on an ordinance amending the Consolidated Fee Schedule to update fees related to business licenses and rental dwelling licenses. This presentation will be given to us by Laramie Gonzalez, our Customer Ops Business Analyst, and by Aaron Sanborn, Vice President of Zion's Public Finance. Welcome, Laramie.
Good evening. Yes, tonight I am bringing to you a a business and rental licensing fee cost of service analysis study. And before we get to that, I'll give you a little idea of what we're going to do here tonight. So I'll give a little bit of history on how we got to where we are today. We'll hear from the consultant that actually did the study itself, and we'll go over those findings and some of the recommendations in that study. And then we'll wrap it up with some staff recommendations of what we think we would recommend and like to see going forward from there. So let me give you a little bit of history on how we got to where we are today. So a couple of years ago, the responsibility of the licensing program in its entirety was given to customer service. And at that time, we kind of did an overall assessment of the program. We looked at the number of licenses we had, the status of the licenses, the efficiencies of the program, and how quickly we could get a license approved and that type of thing. And during that time, I think in my opinion, we did some great work there. And as a result, we started getting the question, and we got the question from you all on how do we fare as far as the fees that we charge for those applications, just to cover the city costs, that type of thing. And when were they last updated? How long have we been charging those fees? So at that time, back in May of 2024, we were tasked with with getting a consultant on board to do that independent fee analysis for us and kind of just give us an idea of where we're at as far as the cost of services and kind of find out what it's actually costing the city today to run the licensing program. And just at the bottom there, we have just a couple of highlights. Previous studies, we did recognize that back in 2010, it was probably warranted that we revisit the fact that where are these fees and should we take a look at those and see where we were at that time. So 2010, that was quite a few years ago. A fee study was done. It was completed in 2011, and it came to the council, but there was no increase at that time. I'm missing a slide here. So the next slide, hopefully we can get that up there. I thought I would put in a slide there of the time frame by which the licensing program has went through a couple changes. Kind of where it started, where the first initial fees kind of were established as far as rental dwelling licenses being charged what they were charged and still being charged today. And then where that fee study in 2010, 2011 falls in, and a couple things there that kind of gives you an overall time frame of how long we've been under the current fee structure. And kind of, this is it right here, on why I think we feel it's a good time to revisit what I think was recognized back in 2010 and why we're looking at that today. So if you look at this timeline, clear back in 1984 is when the city itself adopted a overall licensing fee ordinance that at that time required all businesses to pay a $60 a year fee. That was just across the board, $60 a year. And the caveat there was for any business that generated a minimum of $10,000 in revenue a year. So it was just one fee at that time. If you look at the timeline, you'll see some highlighted timeframes up there. Those are kind of the important ones that we'll actually be talking about, fee changes. The others are just structural changes as far as like renewal dates and things like that. Those are all important too. But to kind of establish how long we've been under this fee structure, those are the highlighted ones here. So back in 2006 is when we first start seeing in the Consolidated Fee Schedule, a rental dwelling fees were $20 a unit, which is what we're still charging today. So from 2006 to 2025, we have not changed anything with rental dwelling licenses. Business licensing, it's kind of the same as what we're charging today, but there were just fewer categories. So it's been expanded a couple times. And as you see through the timeline there, you'll notice that they went from employee counts to a fee structure back to employee counts, and from a calendar renewal to an anniversary date renewal. Those things have kind of fluctuated throughout the years. In fact, it's kind of interesting. If you'll notice, like in 2012, they did change that rental dwelling license structure from a business type to employee count, or from employee count to business type. And then the next year they changed it back. So the last thing that we really did see in the history of licensing is back in 2016 was we made the change to go to an anniversary date for all renewals. So that's kind of the last thing that we've seen. That's roughly 9 years ago. So which brings us to where we are in 2025. If we jump back to 2011, I mentioned earlier that we had a study conducted in 2010. That fee study, it didn't come to council. It was updated in 2011. And there was some fees proposed there, but they were not adopted. I've brought this to your attention before, I think in a work meeting, that at that time, some of the fees actually came down. And upon some further research, I just thought I'd highlight that the fees that actually came down, there's about 7 of them. The reason they did come down is in the study at that time, they recognized that the cost that it actually took for those 7 business types was cheaper than what the city was already charging. So that's why they chose to lower them to that lower fee. So when you hear back in 2010, there was no new fees adopted, that is true. And that the fees actually came down, that is also true, but it wasn't true across the board. So I just wanted to highlight that we did have that fee study in 2011. And also, if you look at the bottom of that timeline, I thought this was really interesting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when Aaron from Zions comes up and talks about this fee study itself. But I thought I'd put up there what the fees were being proposed at the time. So a business licensing fee at that time was being presented to be changed to $219 a month, which is not a whole lot far off from what we're actually proposing if you look at the end of the timeline there.
Wait, did you say a month?
I'm sorry, a year.
Okay.
I said a month. Good catch. And of course, with the rental dwelling licenses and then the rental dwelling licenses that are multi-unit, you can see those there. So at the time, there was an increase proposed and just nothing happened, which I think why I bring that up is it's not a whole lot different than what we're asking for today. So even back in 2011, it was recognized that that was another 5 years after we started with the $20 a unit that the fees were recommended to be increased just to simply cover city costs. So over time, of course, just the efficiencies with the way we do things, some of it's online and all those kind of things, those do come with extra costs, but that's why they did go up, but not a whole lot there. So next I would
So
invite-
Laramie, back on that slide before you move forward, could you also clarify the proposed RDL in 2011, is that 153 per unit?
It was 153 per unit, and the rental for the multi-units, it was $74 plus $38 a unit.
Okay.
So if you look at what we're going to propose tonight or what the findings are in the new study, per unit, it's $86, and it's 53 plus 67 per unit. So multi-units doesn't change a whole lot, but as far as the base fee and then the per unit cost, but for the most part, it did come down. Next, I would just invite Aaron from Zions Public Finance. That's the consulting group that actually did this study, and he'll go through the methodology of the study itself, how they came up with the numbers and the actual cost to the city today. And there'll be some recommendations in there, or some proposed fees of what the fees actually could be or should be for the city just to break even through administering the licensing program. And then I'll kind of recap when he's done.
Thank you, Brian.
Good
Welcome,
evening.
Aaron.
I'm Council Chair and Council. It's great to be with you tonight and to talk through this. Obviously, state code provides a lot of direction to local governments about what they can charge when it comes to taxes and fees. And state code allows municipal governments to charge a license fee for rental dwellings and businesses in order to meet the cost of providing those services. It requires a study to be done to identify what those costs actually are. Hence, this study we're to discuss tonight. Really want to talk through kind of the process for that, because it's important to note that while you can charge a fee, you cannot charge more than what it costs the city to issue the license. And so this cannot be turned into a profit generating tool for the city. This is merely to meet the cost of providing the service. And the methodology we use to do that is what we call a revenue sufficiency model. In general, all of our models, we want them to be accurate, of course. We want them to be intuitive so that they're easy to understand. every city is going to be different. You know, what works in one may not work in another. And so while there's some similarities, we want it to be adaptive to the local climate and what the needs are there. And also able to help kind of tell a story about what you are able to do with these sources. And this is the key for that, is that we are doing this revenue sufficiency model to ensure that the costs of providing the service are met by the revenue collected from that service, so that tax revenue and other revenue sources can be used to fund other projects, other priorities in the city, but that those who are creating this need are meeting those costs. And what the state kind of considers for that is what they classify as a rational nexus for the cost, where we have to be able to justify why certain elements are in that fee. We can't just put everything in there and say, yes, the businesses of Provo should pay for everything. It's only what they are impacting those services. All that goes into the model. And we do that analysis to come up with the outputs of the license fees. And again, the important part there is that we're looking for a balance. We're looking for the revenue to meet the expenses that are being experienced. And so to walk through the study, there are a number of different components that are allowed to be in a total license fee. You have first your base administrative costs, and we'll go into each of these in more detail here in a minute. Also, we are allowed to include if there are special regulatory costs that are borne by the city in order to manage or monitor certain business types. If there are certain businesses that may be in a geographic location or certain business type that are receiving enhanced services above and beyond what everybody else receives, the city is able to, again, use business license or rental dwelling license fees in order to recoup those costs. And then the last one is the disproportionate fees. This is a recognition that there may be certain rental unit types or business types that have a more impactful demand on city services, and it is pretty limited according to the state as far as what those services can be. All of these go in together to build up what the total license fee is, to show, hey, this is what this business is actually costing the city, and the license fee is to use to recoup that cost. So starting off with the base administrative cost, this is just your general fee in order to issue a license. And it's in order to regulate and to issue the license for the business. And there's two main components, the direct cost, but also some indirect costs. Under your direct costs, this is where you have wages and benefits that are paid to the employees who are involved in the process at whatever level. Also, if there are specialized equipment or supplies that are used to issue business licensing, you are allowed to include those because they're going into the overall cost. And the second part of that is indirect costs, where there's a recognition that there are certain benefits provided to every employee, such as, for example, City Hall or GIS services or IT services, some of those things that are utilized by everybody, but aren't specifically for one department. We are allowed to quantify those amounts and include that in this to again show this is what the total cost to provide services. I mentioned the special regulatory fees, and those are for the recognition that there could be certain businesses that require either extra inspections or certain, according to either state or local code, things that are required of them to do that, again, provide a benefit for that business, but also as a cost to the city. The enhanced services, this is usually seen, for example, with like a downtown area. If there are beautification efforts that are given to this one specific area, if there are costs there, you can quantify those and roll those into the business license fee. There you wanted to spend a little bit of time on kind of walking through specifically is the disproportionate costs. These are costs that are incurred by the city to provide higher service levels to certain businesses or rentals based on their demand. And it's key to note that that is based on the actual demand. We can't just estimate or guess what their demand is, but this is verified by actual calls for service. State code limits what we can include to public utilities, police, fire, code enforcement, stormwater, traffic, parking, transportation, beautification, or snow removal. Our analysis only focuses on police and fire. And those are the most common ones that we have seen across the state when municipalities go through this process. And those there certainly can be other ones, but those are the ones we focused on for this study. So the question is, how do we come up with that cost? First, We identify what it takes for Provo City Police or fire to respond to calls for service. Working with those departments, we gather data on all the calls for service for a period of a year across the city, both businesses and residential calls. And we looked and identified which ones were eligible for this, and also looked at the cost for those departments. And using information provided by police and fire, they identified how much of their time was spent on actively responding to the calls. And that's used to determine, hey, only a portion of your budget is actually going to serve going to a call. We want to make sure we're only quantifying for that amount. That allows us to provide kind of that baseline of the cost per call that it takes to respond. Next, we use GIS software to map every call that occurred in the city to identify what kind of location were they responding to. Was it a rental unit? Was it a regular owner occupied unit, or was it a business? This allows us to quantify what the level of service is. And state code, by definition, they kind of want us to focus only, the baseline is provided by a regular single family owner occupied unit. That's what their unit of measurement for the standard is. And so based off of that, that's what we look at. And for Provo, and with that call data, as we analyzed it, there were 0.29 calls per single family unit. For police and fire, there was 0.15 calls per unit to those locations. And that gets built into the analysis later on. We also group businesses or rentals by their type. And this will be based off of what service they are providing or what type of rental they are. This is important because it allows us to better group similar types of uses together. Rather than just doing things randomly or kind of doing it across the board, we want to make sure that a single family rental is treated similarly as opposed to a multifamily unit that may have a higher level of service going to those units. And then coming up with what that level of service is above the baseline. That's the key part where we're showing that there's a disproportionate impact by certain businesses or by certain rental unit types and how that gets into the fee. For this study specifically, for the business license fee, we are only looking at the base administrative costs and the disproportionate costs to make up the total license fee. And then for the rental dwelling license fee, for right now, it is just looking at the base administrative costs, and we can get into a little bit about why that is a little bit later. So starting off with the business license fees, we talked about first coming up with that base administrative costs. This image here goes through all the different departments that have some kind of an impact on the licensing process, whether that's on a simple review, whether that's an inspection, whether that is processing application, whatever it is. We ask city staff first to quantify the number of minutes that they spend on average to issue an application. This is specifically for, I guess this is for both business and for rental dwelling. Working with city staff as well, we identified what the wage and benefits per hour for every employee is as well. Then you can see that indirect costs of 14 cents, that is that kind of the overhead amount where there are, again, the departments here in the city that provide benefits to all employees, and it can be rolled into license costs. There are also training costs or meetings that city staff that are involved in this process are engaged in, and a portion of their time can be allocated again back to the license fee because they're spending it doing that process. There is no supplies cost per hour because there was nothing specialized outside of the regular budget to come up with those total costs per hour and also per minute. And that's kind of the first important step, is identifying how much it costs the city per minute of employee time to go through this process. There's also a few extra expenses that are tacked on as a per license cost. The first is the cost to do the study. That can be recouped through the process. But then as we went through the discussions with city staff, there was a recognition that there's a lot of time that wasn't being accounted for in the customer service department, where they receive a lot of calls about rental dwelling licenses or business licenses that are to employees who aren't involved in that process. And so their time wasn't being allocated to this process. And so we analyzed the total budget for the customer service department call center and how many of those calls are actually related to licensing to come up with $7.32 kind of per license. That is just that customer service cost. So we take kind of both the information from the cost per minute and multiply that by the number of minutes that it takes to issue a license. And that's where we come up with our base license fee costs. And you'll see kind of on the far right what the study calculated as the total cost. And again, that amount is saying for every business, here's what it costs the city to issue a license. That is just the straight cost to the city. Right now, the structure is based off of employee count. The recommendation from the study is to transition that away from a per employee type of categories to just a general business license fee. And this is because you could arguably see a business that have identical employee counts, but one of them has a much higher impact on city services, or a business that has very few employees might have a disproportionate impact much higher than a larger one. And so this is recognizing that for your base costs, everyone should be charged just what it takes to issue that license. And then, as we'll talk about here in a minute, the disproportionate fee is where you would really focus in on the actual impact for that business. Listed there is the home-based business. And there's a very important note with this one. State code prohibits local governments from charging a home-based business a business license fee unless that home-based business has an impact on city services greater than its primary use. If this is just someone for example, working at, they have for example, a accounting business that they operate from their home, but don't receive clients there wouldn't be arguably an impact more than just a regular single family residential use. And so no license fee can be charged for businesses like that. But there are certain businesses that are based out of a home that do have an impact greater than just that home by itself. In those cases, the city can charge that business a license fee, or if the business requests one themselves. Those are the two kind of exceptions that the state gives for a home-based business license. You'll see here that the license fee for beer licenses appears to be going down. And the reason for this, again, is that the impact of these businesses is being captured in the disproportionate cost. We're looking at what they actually are adding to city services when it comes to police and fire. And so even though their base license fee may be lowered, because we're adding on a disproportionate fee, and because, for example, these may be a bar or a restaurant, those fees and those impacts are captured with those categories there. And you can see as well, other license fees, some are going up, some are going down. And this is all just based off of the actual time that city employees are taking in order to go through this process. And now we'll talk about the disproportionate costs. Again, we looked at all the calls for service from police and fire for a period of a year to identify where are these going to and map them out to show where all these calls are happening. Working with police and fire, identifying that about 20% of their time was spent on actively responding or doing the work responding to calls. Coming up with, for the police, it costs on average $410.51 to respond to a call. In the fire department, $379.44 to respond to a call. There's a lot of categories of businesses here in Provo, and that is a great thing because it allows similar type businesses to be grouped together more easily, where you have businesses who are providing a similar service and their impact can be measured together. So that is what this analysis does. It looks through all those categories that the city already has for business licensing, and it talks about how many businesses there are and how many calls happen in those locations. And again, what we then do is we take out those base ratios where we look at, hey, a regular single family home, they again received 0.29 calls for service for police and 0.15 calls for service for fire. And that those final two columns are showing what above those base ratios, what impact those categories have. Some of those categories, like you'll notice, for example, administrative and support and waste management and remediation services, both of those are negative, which means based on the analysis, those businesses actually on average have less of an impact on police and fire services than your regular single family home. Some of them have a net positive impact. You'll see fabricated metal product manufacturing, for example, 0.03 police calls and 0.10 fire calls. So that business category, on average, they have more of an impact on city services. And it's the same with all the different categories that the city has for services, for those different ones. We quantify that for all of them to identify which ones actually do have an impact on city services. And then we multiply that by those costs per call to come up with a total disproportionate fee that can be charged to those businesses. This again is identifying what the actual cost is to the city to provide services for those businesses. And so you'll see, for example, here we have gasoline stations with and without alcohol licenses. Those that have, a beer license, based on the analysis, do have more of an impact on city services. And so the disproportionate fee would allow the city to recoup some of those costs and to make sure that the impact is being recognized by those business categories.
I was wondering if you tell me what's in the miscellaneous category?
It's a great question. So this is based, and Larry can correct me if I'm wrong, these are based off of the NAICS codes that businesses report themselves under. And so you can see there's a lot of different categories of businesses. This is for businesses who don't necessarily fit into any of those categories. They can report that they are essentially something else. And so it is a kind of a catch-all for businesses that may not fit into the other ones as well.
It looks like you might not want to be in that category if you could be in one of the other lower impact categories.
And yeah, it's a great point where this allows the city as well to identify if there are businesses who are not categorized appropriately. There may be a process to be able to categorize them in a way that matches them with the kind of business that they truly are providing service for. So this spreadsheet is only showing the categories that did show some kind of a disproportionate impact. And so it is obviously a lot fewer than the previous two slides. This is just taking out all the ones who did not have an impact or had less of an impact than a single family residence. When we look at what this would do to the city currently, if there were no changes to the business license revenue structure, the city would collect around $500,000 of revenue annually. But based on the analysis, that's not going to meet the cost to provide the service. If we look at the base fee, if we just change that base fee but did not add disproportionate, it would increase the revenue to about $640,000. But then if we added in the base fee and disproportionate, that rises to just under $1 million. And that final number, that is what the true cost is for the city to operate its business licensing program. And so if you wanted to meet the cost to do that, that is what you would be able to recognize with adding the base fee and disproportionate fee. No city operates in a vacuum. There's competition, especially when it comes to businesses. Businesses have the ability to choose where they want to go. Not every city has the same kind of fee structure. We are seeing increasingly, though, more cities moving to this model of having the base license fee and a disproportionate fee. We used Orem as an example because they recently went through the process to amend their fees. And we chose a number of different business types that you might be able to experience in both cities, and looked at what the cost would be for a business to operate here in Provo or to operate in Orem. And you can see in some instances, it is cheaper for a business to have a license here in Provo. And in some cases, it may be cheaper to have it in Orem. So it's not just increasing it across the board to a way where you're going to be driving business out of the city. On average, when we look at the kind of the base license fees, changing it to the proposed amount of $252.43 would put the city around the average of cities in the area. And again, not every city has gone through the process to update when it comes to the disproportionate fees. But this is kind of what we're seeing in the area, is that more cities are wanting to do this type of analysis to identify what their costs are. But it would put the city around the average for the license fee. And then for the rental dwelling license fees, it largely is a very similar process. In the previous slides, we showed kind of breakdown of all the employees. Those costs per minute are the same, whether that's a business license fee or rental dwelling license fee. But when we apply that to the minutes that it takes per license for elderly living spaces, the calculated fee would be $38.15. For a regular rental dwelling license, it would be $86.42. And then for the multiple units, there is the base fee would be $53.27. But there's also inspections that are done by city staff for on a per unit basis. And this would be in order to recoup the cost of doing that extra inspection that is on those units per unit.
Okay, so I've got questions about this. We have not been charging per unit. Have we been doing inspections of each unit in multi-unit apartment complexes?
My understanding from discussions with city staff is that those have been occurring as licenses are applied for.
So we are going into each one of the units and inspecting for what?
So upon the initial application, every rental dwelling license does incur a inspection from the development services team. And I don't know exactly all the criteria they go in and measure against when they do that inspection. But upon initial application, the initial approval of the license, the first year, there is an inspection. That does allow for some time over a 3-year period of time that they will be back to do an additional inspection as needed. But for the most part, every unit is inspected at least once the first time.
Because I was looking, that additional review time per unit, we've got 45 minutes on development services, 15 for police, 15 for fire. That's the time spent doing the inspection?
On average. So when we look at the per unit, so it's kind of interesting that when you see that the per unit, the multi-unit cost does come down, because the initial application itself, we're reviewing the same information, whether there's 1, 2, 3, 5, or 10. But then by the time the staff goes out there and it's really one trip to that complex. So if they're doing 2 or 3 inspections while they're there during that one time, it's kind of the average of that time it's taken to do multiple units from 2 to however many. So yeah, it's kind of broken up. It doesn't, I mean, some of it does take more time than 15 minutes because it just depends how many units they're doing in that particular building or complex. And in some cases, especially development services, it's always a team of 2. So it's never just one single inspector that's actually present for the inspection.
But if we've got, say, 100-unit complex, then, and we're doing 45 minutes of development services time, more or less for that, that's like 75 hours. Are we really spending 75 hours inspecting one apartment complex?
I don't know exactly how much time that they would be there, but according to the study, yes, they are booked solid with the amount of inspectors they have out there inspecting.
Okay, yeah, because we're getting significant pushback on this from people who operate these complexes. And I've been told that we're not doing inspections. This is just paperwork. So why should the paperwork cost more? But what you're telling me is we're actually looking in each of these units. So we're taking the time to do that, to check, I don't know, breakers or sprinklers or whatever.
On every application from the get-go, they do inspect those. From what I understand, they inspect every one of those units.
But we don't do that inspection every year. So why do we need to charge this full amount every year when they renew their license if we're not doing the inspection every year?
The actual cost of the inspection is significantly more than the $67 per unit, but that's provided that they're going to have an inspection sometime within the next 3 years or as needed. So on average, we could assume that if we did an inspection every single year, or we did that one out of 3 years, we just divided that by 3, and that's how we came up with the 67.
So it would cost like $180 to inspect a unit, and we just assume we're going to do that once every 3 years. So we divided the price by 3. So it's annualized.
And an average, yes.
Okay, I'm still thinking about this. I noticed that in the 2011, it was suggested that there be a price per unit, but that was not adopted. Do we know of other cities that are charging a price per unit instead of just charging per class of different types of apartment complexes? You know, one price for a fourplex, another for 10, another for 100.
Well, I'm not sure if you've.
I know when we went through the process, we did look at other cities that are charging rental dwelling licenses. And there were several up in Davis County. And forgive me, I don't remember exactly which cities, but there were some that do charge a per unit cost. Not all of them do. You know, that amount is certainly not in every case. Many cities don't have rental dwelling licenses to begin with as well. And so it is more of a unique thing, but there are other cities that do charge that per unit cost for inspections or other work that are done per unit.
Now, why wouldn't this be considered a disproportionate cost for these things? Why is this rolled into the base fee instead of that other category?
Yeah, excellent question. When we're looking at the disproportionate cost, we're looking at those very specific city services where there is more of an impact on the actual calls for service, whether that's police, fire, if they are creating more traffic. And for the disproportionate ones, the state very narrowly limits that to those specific services where you are
Beautification.
where you're creating more of a demand on those services. This is merely for the actual administration of the program, and based off of the city requirements for the units, say, hey, this is what it takes us in order to inspect that unit and to do that process, rather than being this specific unit is giving us, more police calls or more fire calls, where that's where the disproportionate fee is really focused in on your actual demand on additional city services and not just the administrative costs.
Yeah. I'm not sure where I picked this up, perhaps one of these meetings, but I was under the impression that we weren't actually inspecting all of the units in a multi-unit complex, that we were only looking at a couple of representative ones. Laramie, can you help me understand where I got that mistaken idea?
That is true, Rachel.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well.
Okay, so many of us have this understanding. So what we're being told now that you are inspecting all of them is different than what the council had understood the case to be before.
I understood that when someone applies for a rental dwelling license and they have multiple units, that part of that approval by development services was they was going out and inspecting each one of those units. So I guess it was my assumption that that's what was the case.
Council Chair Garrett. It occurs to me that I think Laramie is getting asked questions he doesn't know the answers to, but it sounds like they are answers that are critical to the council's understanding of this. I think it might be wise at this point to continue this item and to submit those questions so that we can get you answers from the right people in a timely manner, in a way that makes this discussion more productive.
Laramie, I apologize for putting you in a position that you're not supposed to be in.
Those are excellent questions. And by all means, we want to make sure that we have the.
Is the presentation done though? I was hoping to see the whole presentation. That might help us
I'm
solidify all
sorry
the questions.
You're fine.
Jumping the gun there
We're
on the
almost there.
questions.
Yeah, no, you're great. It's an important question to ask with that. It is, we're almost to the end there. We talk about, again, the disproportionate costs. We did the analysis on rental dwellings as well, to identify where the calls for service are actually occurring. You can see here, again, there's a mix where certain unit types don't have any impact or very much of an impact, and other unit types do have a more significant impact on city services. However, you can see what the cost would be there if the city were to charge a disproportionate fee for those different categories. Again, the revenue projections, if we were to do nothing today, not change license fees, we're looking at about $121,000 of revenue. If the city were to adopt just the base fee, there would be an increase to $545,000. And then if we're adopting base fee and disproportionate, which again would be that the true cost to provide services, that revenue would increase to $822,000. However, there's this important thing from state code in that a municipality may not adopt a new disproportionate rental fee unless the city has a disproportionate rental fee reduction and has a good landlord program. And that's an important caveat that the state code requires in this process, where if you're going to have disproportionate fee, you have to provide a way for a landlord to receive a reduction on that. There's not guidance on what that reduction looks like. We've seen some cities as high as 70 or so % of reductions. Some of them will reduce just disproportionate fee. Some will reduce the base fee. It's whatever the council of those cities chooses to do, but state code requires that process be done. And so that's why with this study, kind of the recommendation really is at this time to not have the disproportionate fee on the rental dwelling licenses, to kind of give more of the time to study that and to explore it. I don't know if Laramie has more kind of on the recommendations there, but that is kind of what the recommendation on the rental dwelling license fee would be.
So like I mentioned in the beginning, we'll just kind of do a brief recap of the presentation tonight. So business licensing, if we just look at business licensing for a few minutes, the highlights of what's being proposed through the study and what the staff recommendations would be was the current fee structure is based on employee count, and to update that to have that be per business type, just as Aaron mentioned, that it just helps better categorize those businesses that are actually utilizing those services or those calls for service. So, and the current fee started about $125 and go up to $800, and then the new base fee is $252. So you can see we're kind of right there in the middle on average. Like Aaron said, some will go up and some will go down. He mentioned to you the current revenue that's generated, where we're at today, what would happen if we just did the base fee and base fee plus the disproportionate fee. I liked the graph that shows where we are after if we was to adopt those proposed increases. It does show Provo right there about the average. So at the bottom there, the customer service staff recommendations are with business licensing to adopt that new fee proposed fee structure based on the business classifications. And it makes sense to us that that break-even point of the base fee plus the disproportionate fee does belong with those businesses or those entities that are actually consuming those services. Because anything less, in our opinion, than the base fee plus disproportionate fee does put some of those costs, that burden back onto the residents of Provo. That's kind of subsidizing anything less than that amount. So we did recommend that we adopt the new proposed fee plus the disproportionate fee for business licensing. When it comes to rental dwelling licenses, the current fee structure, it doesn't change a whole lot other than because we do have the 20 per single, $60 per multi-unit. And there are some things that change there if we choose to go with that disproportionate fee. But again, as Aaron had kind of highlighted there, the revenue projections of the repercussions of adopting the new fee or anything less, kind of where we sit there. And the key point here is that good landlord program. So the reason we broke these out separately is the staff recommendations were that we do adopt that proposed base fee, because that does make sense just from an application standpoint of processing that application. But the disproportionate fee itself came with some questions, as well as that caveat of requiring us to implement a good landlord program. And we had some reservations with the good landlord program as far as, it's on the slide here. And the good landlord program does come with some things there, as Aaron mentioned. The pros, it is a program that's aimed towards having landlords kind of raise rental standards. So they go through a class or some, I guess it's pretty much a program that does kind of teach them how to be a better landlord. And it allows for the city to charge a disproportionate fee. The cons there is we found that just tracking of that program, specifically if it's not implemented by the city, and it might be even a third party, which is typical, it's tough to enforce because we don't manage or track that participation. And obviously offering a discount to those landlords to participate in that almost negates increasing to cover the disproportionate fee if now we're going to discount that to be back down to where we were to begin with. So it didn't make sense for us to actually even consider hiring more staff to implement that good landlord program. So our recommendation here was to adopt the fees themselves, the base fee, and not the disproportionate fee, just because of the things that came along with the disproportionate fee as well as the good landlord program. So going forward, I guess that is the decision that we would propose to you tonight is adopting those fees for first rental or business licensing. And if we wanted to do something different with rental dwelling licenses, as Brian had mentioned, we could even table that one separately and come back with additional information if that's helpful.
Yeah, piggybacking on that, Councillor Hoban asked me that same question, and the way that the ordinance is structured, the ordinance itself amends the consolidated fee schedule per an exhibit. The exhibit is dozens of pages long, but there is one small section of it that applies to rental dwelling licenses. So if you wanted to proceed on business license but not rental dwelling licenses, all we would need to do is delete that part of the exhibit, and then that could be revisited later.
And any questions?
Okay, questions for Laramie. Councillor Hoban.
Yeah, so it sounds like we are going to come back with questions. I mean, if I'm reading the room right. I did want to ask this question just in person because it's maybe hard to communicate in an email, but today we have a licensing department, right? I would assume of some FTE that focus solely on business license, rental dwelling license and maybe some other type of licenses, or are they part of another department already?
So currently, customer service oversees the licensing
Okay.
program. So I guess you could say we facilitate the process. We do take in all of the applications, we get them input, we check for a completion of the
But
application.
no dedicated FTE specifically just for licenses right now. So not really, right?
Kind of, sort of. We do have one person that does spend the majority of their time kind of facilitating a number of other customer service representatives that is kind of a reviewing team that they are kind of, one of their other duties is to focus on those applications as they come in. So there's about 5 of them that 4 of those that review those in that committee and one that oversees that, and it does fall under my direction. And then once that application's taken in and it's approved as a complete application, then it goes out to all the other city departments for their approval. And once they do their approval, it comes back to customer service. We check for all any conditions that they may have input. We check for the fees. We reach out for any additional information that they need. And then we go ahead and issue the license. So,
okay. Thanks for answering that. Brian, do we have to take public comment or can we continue this item right now?
You can, if you're going to continue the entire thing, you can continue it before taking public comment. There's a specific rule in the handbook that deals with items that have been continued to a specific date by council motion, but that's not this
Typically,
case.
we want to go ahead and if we're going to do something.
Yeah.
If we're going to do a piece of it, we need to take public comment. Okay.
Right. Now you could, again, so let me back up and address kind of what's implied in that question. If you wanted to make the motion to separate the item right now, vote on that motion and then open it up for public comment and ask people to restrict their comments to the part that you are actually taking action on, you could do that.
So I make a motion that we split the item. Say that again, Brian.
So what you would need to do is, in essence, your motion is to delete the rental dwelling license portion of from the exhibit. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's all the motion.
My motion is stated by Brian.
Yeah, I would second that.
Okay, so we have a motion from Councillor Hoban to separate these 2 items by business license and rental dwelling license, with a second by Councillor Christensen. Any council discussion? Yes, Councillor Christensen.
I
I just so appreciate the good work that's gone into taking a look at the services paid by those who use it. I think that's what you're hearing you've heard from the council. I'm not big on math, but I think in 20 years, inflation has had an impact, and there's no reflection for even that. So love that idea. The big question I have is what Rachel was getting at in terms of the fees and the inspections, and like what's really involved in that. That's what I would like to really double click on, because these larger units, that's a big number. And I want to make sure that there's value for what not just the city gets, but also the renters get, and also the landlords. And so I love the idea of being able to spend more time really looking at that portion of it. In terms of, everything else, I don't have an issue with it, but it is that the rental dwelling license that I would like to spend some more time on and really have more input on what that is.
Thank you, Craig. Counselor Whipple?
I'm going to have a lot of questions that I'll put to the team for later. But if we will be restricting our public comment to only the part that we're voting on, I would suggest that those people who are present who have comments on the rental dwelling license email that to the council sooner rather than later, so that we could incorporate their comments and questions in the ones that we send to you. So that way we don't have to do all that in the meeting tonight, but we actually have a written record, and it's less likely that we will inadvertently overlook one of the concerns that they raise.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other comments? Counselor Hoban?
Yeah, I just realized that me saying let's separate these items maybe sounds like I don't want to take public input, but that's actually the opposite of what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm hoping to give more time to landlords and property owners to be able to provide feedback. Council@provo.gov is the best way to do that. Or, if you want to reach out to us all individually, but I just want to clarify that was not my intent. Yeah, I won't ask these questions, but I think I'll echo kind of what Rachel and Craig were saying, just questions around inspecting each one when that happens. Charging when it occurs, I kind of get why we're breaking it up into multiple years, but just understanding that. And I like the idea of understanding what other cities are doing on a per unit basis as well. I think it's easier to comprehend this when you think about like a 2 or 3 or 4 unit complex. I'm sure they all get inspected regularly, but when you're talking about 100 units or something like that, that's where I think we're having a little bit of heartburn. Is like, are we really doing that? We just want to understand that. So those are kind of where my questions lie on this issue. And so I'll send those to you all via email, but that's why I'm supportive of delaying this today, is to just understand that better.
That's understandable.
But I appreciate the work that you all have done. And I'm very impressed with the presentation and the research that's been done. I think we all just need a little bit better wrap our brain around it a little bit more. So,
and when we come back next time, I'll have someone with development services that can speak to those exact issues of what they inspect for and the reason behind that and that type of thing. And I think generally the intention is just to obviously raise the quality of standards for those rentals, but I'm not sure exactly how they go about doing that. So to speak more intelligently about something that I'm not the expert on, we're happy to bring someone in that can answer those questions for you.
Thank you, Counselor Hoban. Counselor McKay?
Thanks, Laramie. I think the goal is definitely that we don't want taxpayers subsidizing any fees, within the city. But so this is great. We can parcel out the business license and get that taken care of. I know that they're not inspecting every of the large units. They get an application and they usually expect a handful. We don't have the staff to inspect them. We were already running at a deficit and we don't have the staff to do those inspections or the time. So I always need to parcel that out and figure out make sure that we're pricing it correctly, because it's not right to be subsidizing it, but it's not right to overcharge. We just need to figure out that specifically. And it's important for this audience to know that in customer service, they don't do the inspection part. Like, that's not in your department. So you did understand that they were doing everyone. That's just misunderstanding, not being in that department. But yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Counselor McKay. So we have a motion and a second to separate these two licensing items. Any other council discussion on that motion? Great. I'll call for a vote. Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor
Yes.
Whipple,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes. Counselor McKay,
Yes.
Counselor Christensen,
Yes.
Counselor Hanley,
Yes.
and Counselor Bogdan.
Yes.
So that motion passes by a vote of 7-0. So let us return then to the issue of the business license fee proposal and ask Laramie if anyone, I'm sorry, ask counselors if they have any additional questions for Laramie relative to these licenses before we open up to public comment on this specific item. Counselors, any more questions for Laramie regarding the business license fee structure? Rachel.
I have one. This is thanks to Mike Roan. So he brought up an example where they had to call fire to help him pick up his wife who had fallen and broken some legs. And they got a bill from the fire department for that response. When businesses have to call police or fire, do they get bills for those responses?
That is a good question. That's a question that I cannot answer.
Because if they get a bill for those responses, it doesn't make sense to do a disproportionate fee because we're recouping those funds from them directly in another way. But if they don't get a bill, then they are causing this extra cost to the city, and it would make sense to do the disproportionate fee.
I know there are a variety of reasons why police and fire do send an invoice for a variety of things. But I'm not sure as to the relationship to the business itself and any particular calls that they would provide service for.
Did that come up as part of the study, Aaron?
No, through the process of the study, in conversations with, police and fire, there's nothing mentioned about directly billing, to individual business. These are just the calls for service that occurred as a result of those businesses.
Okay.
Counselor McKay?
And a lot of those calls for services, like I know a lot of our commercial downtown deals with vagrancy or, other issues and vandalism. And there's a lot of other issues besides like using an ambulance per se, or actually using the emergency vehicle that you might be charged for, things that you are not ever charged for.
Counselor Bogdan?
I was going to say the same thing. I've had emergency services come over for health reasons to my home and never gotten a bill. It's actually, from what I understand, it's actually the ambulance. But we don't have anybody from fire here to verify that. But it's, and those understandings I'm not concerned with, because ambulance bills, they're different.
I just wanted to address it since it was a question at least one person had raised, and probably other people were concerned about it too.
Was that a service, or was that a invoice or a bill from Provo City itself? I know there are independent ambulance services out there as well, so. Okay.
So if I go to a bar and crack my head open at the bar and I'm transported away by an ambulance, I might get a bill, but the bar owner is not getting a bill. And so I think what we're looking at here is those types of businesses attract more service calls. And so they're not getting billed, but they're creating, I don't know how to say this, creating the opportunity for people to use the services more often, disproportionately than other businesses, right? And so hence the need to have a disproportionate charge, if that helps make sense of it.
Counselor Bogdan?
The other example I'll give is, as long as I've been following council meetings, which has been for years, there was a CUP that I believe they finally did revoke, of a dance hall just up 500 West. And they had an absorbent amount of police calls there. And I think that's the kind of a thing that they're looking at. Or kind of like what is he? Is he sergeant now? Sergeant Lewis brought it to us that there were just certain hotels that they had to go to over and over and over again. And I think that is what we're looking at, right? We're looking at that's disproportionate. So it's not fair to charge the Ramada the same thing that this other place that's getting call after call after call.
Yeah, because
after
nobody's
call.
paying for that. I mean, ultimately, in the end, people are paying for it, but nobody's paying directly for it. I think it makes sense.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Aaron, and thank you, Laramie.
If I could
Yes.
make just one additional comment, I failed to mention earlier. I'm not sure if you were all aware, in the ordinance that is actually proposed, the effective date will actually be
Yes.
April 1st,
Mhm.
just to make sure we're
Yes.
clear. Simply because we would need that time to work with our software provider that does all of the licensing for us to make those configuration changes and
Right.
make sure that's all configured and tested and ready to go. So it wouldn't be effective immediate. We're proposing April 1st.
Okay, thank you, Laramie. Kevin, could you put back on the screen the item description number 13? We'll now open public comment on this implied motion, which is an ordinance amending the Consolidated Fee Schedule to update fees related to business licenses. So just this item. And we'll treat rental dwelling licenses as a separate topic following this one. Are there any here who would like to speak or offer comment related to the proposed updated schedule for business licenses? You can approach the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and come back to the council for discussion. Any additional discussion? Okay, then we'll call for a vote. Is there an online comment? Oh, okay. Okay,
Because staff pointed out to me afterwards that the exhibit is where the substance was, but as you noticed when you were reading it, there are a bunch of references to rental dwelling licenses in the preamble, so they've taken all of that out.
okay,
So that the entire ordinance refers only to business license fees.
okay, very good.
George and the mayor, we weren't going to give you a short one tonight.
Okay, so this is the amended ordinance, which refers only to the business license fees with rental dwelling license fees removed. Thank you. Counselor Bogdan,
Yes.
Counselor Hoban,
Yes.
Counselor Whipple,
Just for clarification, as we're doing this, we're changing the base fee and we are adopting the proportion or the disproportionate fee.
Yes.
Okay. Yes.
Counselor Garrett, yes. Counselor McKay,
Yes.
Counselor Christensen.
Yes.
And Counselor Handling.
Yes.
So that motion passes by a vote of 7-0. So now we have the next item, which is this amended item, an ordinance amending the Consolidated Fee Schedule to update fees related to rental dwelling licenses. Do counselors have any additional questions for Laramie or Aaron relative to the rental dwelling license proposed fee schedule?
And Chair Garrett, just to be clear, we have not, based on that original motion, we've deleted the references. We have not created a new reference.
Okay.
That's prepared for rental dwelling license. So I'm
Oh.
assuming, in fact, did you actually move to continue it or not yet?
Shoot, I only moved to separate them.
Right.
So I'll make a motion to continue this item.
Okay,
I think the rental dwelling license issue needs to come back, which is not to say that you can't ask more questions now if you have more questions.
okay.
But
I would second that.
the end goal will be that it needs to come back.
So we have a motion to continue by Counselor Bogdan, a motion and a second by Counselor Christensen.
Yeah, Hoban.
I'm sorry. Who did I say?
don't care. She can
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Additional comments or questions for Laramie or Aaron in preparation for this item coming back? I would like to make a comment. We received an email this morning at 9 a.m. from the Government Affairs Director of the Rental Housing Association of Utah, Justin Allen. I don't know if Justin is here.
No.
And he in his email, Laramie, he references, he said, in the past, whenever Provo City was considering issues concerning rental property operations, previous elected officials and staff invited the RHA to participate in the process. Does this ring a bell to you, Laramie? Have you ever, how long have you been with Provo City?
Well, I've been with Provo City 20 years, but
Okay.
I've only been in customer service for about 9.
Okay.
So
So-
the previous study did preclude me being in this department.
Okay, so you wouldn't know whether or not the RHA was consulted during the previous study?
Correct.
Sure,
Okay.
Garrett, I don't recall, I was here for that. I don't recall them having been consulted at that time. I think that there have been times in the past when we have been considering things like the rental dwelling disclosure and other rental specific regulations. That they have been consulted.
okay.
I think that has typically come from, to the best of my recollection, some counselor who was aware that they were a stakeholder suggesting
Right.
that we include them.
Right, okay.
So, but
Because he ends his email, our objective would be for the new policy to be endorsed by the Rental Housing Association. I mean, that would be the ideal, is if we, in our conversations, could seek their endorsement and involve them in the process of this win-win that Travis is talking about.
Some additional information on that agency. I know that they have been involved in a similar process, not maybe contacted directly. I do know they have an affiliation with the organization that does, in fact, implement good landlord programs. So I know that they do have some good information
Okay.
as far as the implementation of that type of program. So I'm not sure if the information and the input that they've been able to provide in the past has been around that, but I do know that they've offered some information, some input with regards to that portion
On
of
related topics.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. All right. Any other council comments or input for Laramie or discussion?
Yeah, I just wanted to be sure that as we're looking at the disproportionate fee, that we're sure that we're taking into account exempt businesses under Utah Code 10-1-203-5, 1D, because we can't charge a disproportionate fee for a fourplex or less if one of the units is owner occupied. So I believe we wouldn't be able to charge a disproportionate fee for an ADU or elder living space, even if the study says that it is justified. So I want to be sure that that number is happily cordoned off from it. I also think it would be useful for us to be able to get numbers showing what the new base fee would be if we did not do a per unit cost. Perhaps doing different classifications of apartment complexes. I'm skeptical that we are actually inspecting all of the units based on the total number of the disproportionate or the cost of the base fee, where we're counting in supposedly an inspection for all of the units. That would be at least 5 full-time employees doing that work all the time. And I don't believe that we're doing that right now. So I really want clarification on that. If doing those inspections would make for better units for our tenants, I think there could be value to it. But I don't want to pretend that we are doing inspections that we're not and then charging for them, because I don't know if we started charging for them now that we would actually then start to do them. So I really, really want good clarification on that. That would likely include numbers from development services on how many people they have doing these inspections, how much of their time is dedicated to it, and similar numbers from police and fire. How much do we have an employee who just does these inspections and checks for sprinklers and things like that?
When we first started this process with Zions, we sat down and met with each department, and there's a matrix of all the people in that department, how they touch that application, what their part of the approval process is. And when we met with them, they are the ones that provided the information of how much time they spend and how many of them spend time doing that. But I don't know exactly what that time is spent doing. So to
And
your
maybe
point,
that's the question is, how much of it is document review, how much of
Sure.
it is checking county records, and how much of it is going out and doing site visits?
so I don't know if the information would change much from what's in the study itself as far as the time, but I think it's worth exploring the actual time spent doing what, and maybe having them speak to that particular. This is how much time we said we spend doing, and this is what we do during that time, and this is the value that it brings. So
Yeah.
to your point, we could definitely try to
Yeah,
get that information too.
That would be wonderful, because looking at it one way, people could see this as a city trying to do a $700,000 grab for no added value. But looked at the other way, we've been giving a $700,000 subsidy to landlords and property managers in the city. And I want to know what's actually going on, which of the narratives makes more sense, and maybe it's a slightly different story.
Sure.
Counselor Christensen?
Yeah, I would add to that. I'd also like to make sure that it's adding value to the landlords. It's not just about compliance. I'd love to hear the landlord voices as well. What value do they get from this? Because I think it's a misnomer to think, well, we're just trying to enforce, these terrible landlords. We've got a lot of wonderful landlords. Let's hear from them, and let's make sure that the inspections we're doing are actually helpful to them. They're actionable. They're not just, we're not just there to penalize.
Sure.
Okay, unless there's additional council comment or question, I'll call for a vote.
Chair
on this.
Garrett, sorry,
Yes.
I hate to do this because I think everybody wants this to end, but I do have one clarifying question for Councilor Whipple, which is you asked specifically about making sure that we were exempting properties that must be exempted from the disproportionate fee, but the staff recommendation is not to do the disproportionate fee. So I don't think that information is necessary. I wouldn't expect staff to provide it unless the council is interested in moving away from that recommendation.
So part of it is just to check the numbers to make sure that the numbers that were generated are actually consistent with the code.
Right, but the numbers that are generated for the disproportionate fee are irrelevant if they're not being implemented.
Right. And I was trying to check on whether a charge per unit is something that falls as a disproportionate fee or not. It doesn't clearly say that in the code, but I like the idea of a good functioning, good landlord program. I know that our staff spoke against it, and there are mixed opinions on the realtor and the rental agency side of it. I don't want to foreclose discussions of the disproportionate fee and a good landlord program, which is why I think it's useful to make sure our numbers are accurate on the disproportionate fees.
And I apologize for pushing back this much, but I think the council has already voted on that, because my recollection is that during the work session, there was actually a vote to follow staff's recommendation and not include the disproportionate fee in the final ordinance.
Okay.
So I think that question has already been decided unless the council is interested in reopening it.
I don't know if the council is interested in it as we talk with other people, but I'm happy to drop that question.
Okay,
for
thank you.
clarification.
All right, I'll call for a vote to continue this item. Counselor Whipple?
Yes, please.
Counselor Garrett? Yes. Counselor McKay?
Yes.
Counselor Christensen?
Yes.
Counselor Handley?
Yes.
Counselor Bogdan?
Yes.
Counselor Hoban?
Yes.
Thank you. So that motion to continue passes by a vote of 7-0. To those who have come relative to this item, thank you for your attendance and participation. or listening, please email us and continue to share your feedback with us. Thank you. Item 14, a resolution approving the appropriation of $10,000 to pay for a public safety impact fee for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026, presented by Kelsey Zarbuck, our budget officer. Welcome, Kelsey.
Thank you. So the purpose of this item is to appropriate $10,000 in the general CIP fund to pay for a public safety impact fee study. The funding source would be public safety impact fees. The last time that this study was done was back in 2017, which was pre-inflation, and we just want to make sure that the fees are up to date. This is simply a request for the allocation for the funds. The study hasn't been done yet. We don't know what the recommendations are. That would all come later. So we're just asking for the funding to do the study. Any questions?
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. Questions for Kelsey? Thank you, Kelsey. We'll open this item for public comment. If there are any here who would like to speak to this proposed appropriation, you can come to the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion or a vote. Councillor Whipple.
Yes.
Councillor Garrett, yes. Councillor McKay.
Yes.
Councillor Christensen.
Yes.
Councillor Handley.
Yes.
Councillor Bogdan.
Yes.
And Councillor Hoban.
Yes.
This item passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. Item 15 is a resolution approving the transfer of up to $500,000 from Provo City's Disaster Recovery Fund to the Stormwater Service District for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. This item will also be presented by Kelsey Zarbuck.
So as everyone here is aware, there was a fire in the Buckley Draw area and then a subsequent mudslide that resulted in the debris channel getting full of debris. Public Works was able to absorb a lot of costs related to the response to the disaster. However, there was a large cost to excavate the debris channel that they're asking for up to $500,000 from the Disaster Recovery Fund to help them with that expense. The Disaster Recovery Fund is eligible for use when there's been a declared disaster within the city boundaries, which the mayor was able to do in order to give the council the opportunity to allocate these funds. The Disaster Recovery Fund couldn't be used in any other circumstance, and currently there's a balance of about $1.9 million. So if this appropriation went through, the balance would go down to about $1.4 million. Any questions about that?
Kelsey, the resolution is for up to 500,000. Do we have a feel for where we are currently relative to actual damage assessments or what might anticipate this could be?
So I checked we have like a job code that's tracking expenses, and currently the expense that has been charged there, and I have Jimmy here, we have about $433,000 that's been charged there, which has gone up since we presented in work meetings. So I think we're hoping for a little bit of buffer in case there were some unforeseen costs. Jimmy? Okay. That doesn't always happen with me and Jimmy, so.
But not expected to exceed 500,000 then. Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Any other questions for Kelsey? Councillor Bogdan?
I just want to clarify, this is just the amount of money that we're paying another person to haul off all of the stuff. This does not account for our employees' time, for our machinery, for our diesel fuel, for any of that, correct?
So I would just clarify there are some costs for things that we installed to help with remediation. So some parts and pieces, but not any of the equipment or time or
Labor.
gas. Yeah.
So the last time when we talked about this in a work meeting, you were still collecting all those expenses. Do we have a final total of everything, like all of our staff time, all of our equipment, all of our fuel?
No, because there's still some material left to be removed. And so I promise I will get you that when that happens.
Thanks, because I do have people asking of how much did this cost the city for this natural disaster? So we just want to make that clear that this 500,000 is the amount that we're paying a contractor to haul off the debris. Can we call it debris? All right, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kelsey or Jimmy? Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Jimmy. We'll now open this item for public comment. If there are any here who would like to speak to this item, you can approach the podium. If not, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion or for a vote. Councillor McKay,
Yes.
Councillor Christensen,
Yes.
Councillor Handley,
Yes.
Councillor Bogdan,
Yes.
Councillor Hoban,
Yes.
Councillor Whipple,
Yes.
and Councillor Garrett, yes. This motion passes by a vote of 7-0. If there's no objection, we'll now adjourn the Provo Municipal Council and convene the Stormwater Service District Governing Board by unanimous consent in order to address item 16, which is a resolution appropriating up to $500,000 in the Stormwater Fund for flood mitigation efforts for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2026. Kelsey.
Okay, just to clear up any confusion, the previous resolution was under the Provo City Council's directive, and it was transferring money out of the Disaster Recovery Fund to Stormwater Fund, but Stormwater Fund is in the Stormwater Service District. So now that the money's been transferred, we request that that transferred money is appropriated for spending in the Stormwater Fund. And so that's what this item would do. Any questions?
Great. Thank you, Kelsey. Questions for Kelsey? We'll open this item for public comment. Seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring the item back to council for discussion and for a vote. Councillor Christensen,
Yes.
Councillor Handley,
Yes.
Councillor Bogdan,
Yes.
Councillor Hoban,
Yes.
Councillor
Yes.
Whipple,
Yes.
Councillor Garrett, yes, and Councillor McKay.
Yes.
This item passes by a vote of 7-0. Thank you. If there's no objection, we'll now adjourn the Stormwater Service District Governing Board and convene as the RDA Governing Board by unanimous consent and turn the time to our board chair, Rachel Whipple.
Good evening, my friends. For item number 17, we have an implied motion on a resolution approving a development agreement for real property generally located at 3200 West Bulldog Lane between the Provo City Redevelopment Agency and Nilson Homes. Who is presenting this? Normally it would be Bill Pepperoni. Melissa, can you come up and introduce her? So Melissa McNally, who works with Bill, is stepping in.
Hello.
Hi, Lacey Richards with Nilson Homes, and I'm joined by Matt Meyer from Nilson Homes.
Welcome.
Thank you. I can.
Thank you for stepping in at, 8:54 p.m. I
Sure.
know you're sharp.
So this is a resolution to enter into a development agreement with Nilson Homes. And it's kind of a multi-layered development agreement between Provo City, the RDA, Nilson Homes, and the Utah Community, is it Community Land Trust? And it's for the development of the Delta Vista. Yeah. And ultimately, in this development agreement, we would transfer the property that is under the RDA right now to Nilson Homes in exchange for 34 workforce homes that will be deed restricted, and overseen by the Utah Community Land Trust.
All right, thank you. And this is a project that was started at the request of the City Council and the RDA Board. So I'm really grateful for all of the work that has been done on this. Are there any questions from the board? Yes.
So is this the final step? Is this all we have to do, or is there more that will be coming back to us for this project?
That's a great question. Do we have, because I'm not 100% sure.
It's the final legislative step, yes.
Okay.
All the subsequent approvals will be on engineering drawings and will be done by staff.
All right. Thank you.
All right. I will now open this item for public comment. Is there any online?
No.
All right, seeing no public comment, I shall close public comment and open this for the board discussion. Yes, Christensen.
Let me just say hooray. It's wonderful when we're able to actually do something about housing, and especially for people who are so important to the city. This is just a wonderful success story. And I'm grateful for the administration and their leadership on this and getting this done, helping us get this done.
Thank you. Board Member McKay.
I'm ecstatic about this. This land trust is something that I ran on my first election, and I'm thrilled that Mayor Kafusi had shared the vision, and this is something that we were working on for a few years, and I'm just thrilled. I'm beyond thrilled. A lot of affordable housing takes a lot of subsidy, and this is a minor subsidy initially that's not subsidized long-term, yet it's perpetually affordable. And I'm so excited about that. And I'm excited that we have found a excellent builder who has a good reputation, and that we can do this in a way with market homes and land trust homes. And I'm just thrilled. Thank you so much.
Board Member Garrett.
I'm excited for the innovation that this concept shows. And I expect it could be a model. I hope others notice, and a model that could be duplicated. And I hope that word can, I'm sorry that Bill's not here, who has put so much work on this, but I hope word will get to him. Thank you.
Yeah, we hope Bill is doing well and his family, and I'm really grateful to him and his work on this and finding Nilson and everything else. Is there any further board discussion? Yes, Board Member Bogdan.
So a lot of times I get asked about this, and what we're seeing here in the state of Utah is we have cities like Park City and Moab and other cities that it's just so unaffordable to live within the city. I think Weber County is facing some of those same problems. And one of the problems that they have is you've got all these kids that need to go to school. You've got all this firemen that need to be living here or somewhere close to here, right? And police officers, and they're not paid very much, and they can't afford to live in these communities. And so when we do something like this, this gives us an opportunity. Not only is it an opportunity for firefighters and police officers and city employees that don't make very much money, but it's also really important for us because we need these people in order to survive. We need the police force to be safe. We need the firefighters to be safe. And what makes me really excited about this is it's right across from Provo High. And I am super excited about that. My kids go to Provo High. I have a daughter in Provo High right now. I know they've been on lockdown a couple of times, and it's unnerving with what goes on in the world, but I'm excited that there are going to be people that live right there, that can help, that can be right there. I'm excited for Nilson Homes. When we went last year up to a conference for housing, we heard a presentation from the owner and how they were pairing with Weber County, right? Weber County. And they were doing these, and he was saying he's taking a loss on his profits in order to make a good product. And that made me really excited. These people, from what I know about them, are a very good contractor. They do it not necessarily, I mean, you have to make a profit to live, right? But they do this for the communities, and they do this to build a good community. And I'm excited that our employees, I value our police and our fire and our teachers. My husband is a teacher. I value that highly, and I'm glad that we can give them something of value so that we can have them here and have them in the places where we need them, which is right here. And it's actually in my district. So thank you.
All right, seeing no more board discussion, we will call for a vote on the implied motion. Board Member Garrett,
Yes.
McKay,
Yes.
Christensen,
Yes.
Handley,
Yes.
Bogdan,
Yes.
Hoban,
Yes.
and Whipple is yes. All right, that is a vote that passes by 7-0. So at this point, we would normally say, if there's no objection, we would adjourn the RDA Governing Board by unanimous consent. However, because this is the last meeting with Board Member Handley and with the Executive Director of the RDA Board, Michelle Kafusi, I would like to give them the opportunity to declare this meeting adjourned.
My friends, go home.
Thank you.
Recording stopped.